Hey guys, what's up? Kurt here with another episode of Audio Stew. This episode is pretty long, so I'm going to keep this introduction as brief as possible. In today's episode, you'll hear a conversation I had with my older brother Josh. He has been pursuing different forms of filmmaking for several years. But yeah, I brought him on just to talk about his personal experiences with filmmaking and the filmmaking industry and just filmmaking as an art form and just all the different aspects that go into filmmaking. We do go off on a few tangents in this episode. I left pretty much the conversation as is. I did edit a couple of parts just so it's a little bit easier to listen to, but I found pretty much the whole thing to be enjoyable and educational. So I tried to leave as much as possible, even though it is long. I really didn't want to split it into two episodes just because I like how the conversation flows in just one episode. But yeah, obviously it is long. So, take a break or do whatever you got to do. Let's just get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Audio Stew. Today we have another special guest. It is my older brother Josh. Say hi, Josh.
Hello.
And we're gonna be talking about the art of cinematography. So basically, like the whole process of filmmaking and what makes it unique and special, and what are some of our personal favorite aspects of doing that. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of what we're going to be talking about. But before we get into that, uh, Josh, why don't you introduce yourself? Kind of give us, some background on who you are and what you're doing these days and things like that.
Sure. I grew up in Nebraska with Kurt.
Yeah.
um, and I lived there till I was 17 or 18. Then we moved to Arkansas.
Hmm.
I went to college in Arkansas at John Brown University. And then after I graduated, I had been talking to a girl a lot my senior year. And basically I decided, why am I here? I want to be with this girl. So
Nice.
her family was very, very nice and gracious and let me live with them. And I moved to Oregon in 2011, and I've been here since then. And I do video work. That's my full-time job now, finally.
Awesome. So you're married, you're in Oregon.
Yep.
Why why are you here today? I mean, like, what, obviously you already said you've been working on video stuff today, but like what
Yeah.
what makes you qualified to be here?
I'm not sure, but I I have been making videos for a long time. Um, I would say I more seriously started making videos in high school, college,
Hmm.
um, and it's just something I've like been interested in for a really long time. I studied cinema in college. That's what I got my degree in, and then after that, I was looking for jobs for a long time, doing lots of like little freelance things, and made a
Hmm.
few films. And then eventually, I got hired at a digital marketing company, and I'm videographer is like my official job title right now, although it's actually should probably be something different. We've talked about changing it many times, because a videographer is someone who just kind of shows up to an event and captures it and then
Hmm.
maybe edits it, but I do a lot more than that as far as writing, like more of the concept behind it, I guess.
Okay, so you have a more active role beyond just filming or whatever. You
Yes,
actually get to be part of the like creative process.
I do more than walk around the office all day with the camera. It
I got
it's
you.
not like I'm making a real life The Office of
Yeah, yeah,
our
yeah.
company or something, although that would be pretty great.
That would be funny. You guys should do
Yeah.
that sometime, or at least make like a spoof or something.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, why don't we back it up a little bit to what you started earlier? So you have been interested in videos, like video making, your whole life.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning, okay? So
Sure.
I I remember seeing the home videos of Batman, and Ice Woman or whatever, like Aunt Amy did, and something like that.
Mhm.
Poison Ivy, maybe. Um,
Yep, she made an appearance.
there we go. Uh, was that something that like you wanted to do a lot when you're younger? Or is that more like something mom was like, "Hey guys, let's do this," or what was that kind of
You
like when you
know,
were younger?
that's a good question. Like, I know I would definitely wanted to make little videos and little movies when I
Hmm.
was younger. I remember, like, I think I broke the VCR or VHS camera we had.
Oh, really?
I d I don't know. I remember one time I was making a video with Kristen and John, and then, like, it wasn't working after
Huh?
that. But yeah, as far as the Batman videos, I don't know if that started off as like a mom thing or if that was my idea. Um, when we first started off, she definitely wasn't twisting my arm or anything because I
Yeah,
like I mean I loved Batman and like the idea of being I was a little too into it, I think.
yeah.
I don't remember. I feel like I there was some video where I feel like I don't know if I hurt Janelle, but I remember I like oh no, it was Aunt Amy. Like when I
Oh
threw that
yeah, or
batarang,
like
I got it
you
caught in
threw a
her hair.
battering and then yeah.
Yeah, kinda into it.
uh, yeah, that was funny.
Um,
There's a lot of good ones.
yeah. And then I remember making some like random like news segment videos um, with Janelle and Shanna as well.
Yeah, was
Several
there
hours later. Remember that? There was
wait, which one was that one?
I just remember there was a scene about that Janelle was driving the car
Yep.
and then a cat like decides to go
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we cut to the scene that was supposed to be outside the car, and it was just like a little toy car. And but I kept saying several hours later, like the car had been
Yeah.
crashed for hours.
I remember this now. Yeah.
Yeah, some really good transitions.
Mhm. Yeah, because you did like a little news bit or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I don't remember
And
if it
there was
was.
like an Easter egg hunt was what it was, I think.
Oh yeah, there was a also. I don't remember if it was me or Christina, but it was like something about a baby terrorizing the city or something like that. I don't, and that I don't remember exactly. There was.
Yeah.
Did you do something with Kermit once in like
Ye
Wahoo?
yeah, that I think that was part of the same thing somehow. Something with, like there was a lizard man and then
Yeah,
Kermit. Yeah.
they got
Wow,
into a fight.
this is all rushing back to me now.
We watch those things every now and then around here.
Yeah.
So it especially Christina, she likes to pull them out. So they just are like, okay, I guess we're watching this one again. Um, so even early on, you had a strong, or at least somewhat of a desire to be more creative. How did that transition then into like high school and college and sort of the whole like the rise of YouTube and things like that?
Yeah, I feel like I started getting interested making videos, like, right when YouTube was a thing. I think it actually might have started I don't know if so me and my friends had a website
Hmm.
called Wow for Now in high school, which just stood for Without Women for Now because we were all single. Um, doesn't really actually make sense because without is like one word, not two words, but whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and I think we might have had a camera that could do a little bit of video. Like it might have been like a little Canon point and shoot. And
Hmm.
it might have been able to do a little video. I remember like making a video at the park. And it was just like a really dumb kind of slapsticky sketch comedy
Hmm.
stuff. And then I remember at some point, I think it was my sophomore year, Drew Hankey actually had his own camera. It was like a little mini DV camera, like the little mini DV tapes. And um, basically after that, like then we like were really starting to make videos. And I think we were kind of all interested in
Mm-hmm.
it. So it was like a group thing, but I think I was kind of like maybe the person who was like most interested in it. Like I was always the person who edited it, like
Oh
the
yeah.
little videos and stuff.
Yeah, to do all the brunt work on things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I was excited to do it. Windows Movie Maker. Um, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of crazy to think back to that actually, because it wasn't like it was still the same process in college as well with mini DV tapes of like that you had to have an actual physical tape, and
Mm-hmm.
then to actually like capture the video you had to like play it back on your computer, and the computer would like record it, so you had to like sit
Oh
there and
really?
watch the whole thing play back. Yeah.
Huh.
And so sometimes you couldn't even like some of them the cameras were smart enough to split the clips into individual clips, but some of them weren't. So you would just end up with like a long thing, like a long piece of footage that would be the whole tape.
Gotcha. This is totally random. Uh do you remember that game on the PC or whatever? The
Oh, the
the
movie
3D
maker
movie maker?
game. Yeah, 3D movie maker.
Did
Yeah,
you did you do that a lot? I don't even know.
yes, I made a lot of movies on that. Pretty much like there was so 3D movie maker was basically a game where you could there was like 40 preset like characters, and you could like
Mhm.
dress them in different ways, and they could do like special little actions like jumping, or like they could do a karate chop, and I definitely used that a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And then you could put them in little locations, and then basically you would like make them do things, and then you would record a scene out of it, and you could put voiceover over it. So you're basically kind of making like a video game-ish cartoon thing.
Gotcha. You
Um,
could do voiceover too? I
yeah,
don't
we
remember
had
that.
a little microphone that you could record voiceover. So I definitely made a lot of like little videos of that. I remember the only thing I can specifically remember making was like a video for dad for like Father's Day or for his birthday.
Oh, yeah?
Some like action movie thing where he had to like program
Oh,
something.
wait.
I kind of wish I could see these now
I
because
don't have oh, man. I don't have the specific memory of that, but, like, just the super, super vague
yeah.
memory of maybe seeing that at some point in time.
And I
I
feel
don't
like I
remember.
made like a million like Karate Kid movies, like with bunches of sequels, and all it was was like the characters doing the karate chop action. That was like the only fighting action you could make them do.
Yeah, it was, like, super simple, like, animations for these, like,
Yeah,
polygon type
yeah.
characters, like, it was pretty fun, though. I don't know if I ever messed around with it that much. I think I did a little bit, but not
No,
a
yeah.
lot.
I mean, by the time you would have been old enough to use it, it would have looked so bad.
Yeah, it was a little bit outdated, but
Graphics had come a long ways by that point.
yeah. Anyway, so that sidebar aside,
Yeah.
so going back to your kind of high school-ish era with videos, how many guys were in that group that you did videos with, do you know?
I mean, it kind of ranged. Like the official group was like, I have to count. Not Truman, Bryce, Luke. I think it was six of us, 6 or 7 of us.
Okay.
Um, but like I would also do some stuff with Bill Grip and Straw too.
Yeah.
Like we did like some almost like crossover type videos because Bill had a really successful YouTube channel as well. Like his actually he had a couple of videos that got like lots of views.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I don't know that.
yeah, yeah, he had this one video, Lag in Real Life. is basically just all about video game lag,
Yeah.
and kind of like what would that be like in real life? And it was like
Yeah.
I think it got like over like 1 million views or something.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah. Our biggest video was It's a Hardcore Life, which
Oh
was
yeah,
based
I was gonna ask you about that.
yeah,
Because that I haven't looked at it in forever.
I haven't
I think it
either.
was like
Let me look.
150,000 is what I want
That
to
sounds
say.
right. Let's see. I'll look right now. Yeah, 150,000 on the dot.
Oh, okay. So
Uh,
gotcha.
yep. Not on the dot, but close
Okay.
enough.
Yeah, I'm not quite that psychic. So yeah, sorry I interrupted you, but like what that was kind of your only major like semi-viral video.
Yeah.
What was kind of the whole deal surrounding that?
I think it was just super relevant because sort of this like hard it was basically about hardcore music, and like we put all these kind of like more popular hardcore bands in it. It's kind of weird to look at it now because it's just like not popular at all
Mhm.
anymore. So it's like, oh, this was a strange phenomenon of the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Like lots of basically we like kind of did these screamo voices the whole video, and like did everything in sort of these hardcore movement ways of like the way we
Yeah.
threw our bodies around and
I remember,
stuff.
is it Truman who would always do like the backflip or
Yeah,
front some
Truman could do a backflip, so he like did that in one of the scenes.
my favorite part of that video is he does a backflip and then you just like reverse the
Or
whole
it,
clip
yeah,
again. And then it
yeah.
just goes back.
And then
Uh,
there's the other one of the highlights is going through the Wendy's
oh
drive-through.
yes. The
Um, and I'm driving and I ask everybody what they want, and then I order the order in a screamo voice, and then I drive off.
As this is like, I would like a salad
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
I ask everybody for their orders, and then I just order, like, one person's order.
My favorite part of that too is like the dude on the other end. He's like super chill about it. He's like,
Yeah.
all right, what would you like to drink with
Yeah,
that?" Or
yeah.
something like that. Uh, that was a lot of fun. So, did you? That was mostly high school, right? How did that transition
Yeah.
to college? Did you keep doing YouTube stuff?
Yes. So that was, like, my senior year of high school and, like, after I graduated, I think, and I know we did a couple more videos, like, at camp, but we definitely never did it, like, as consistently after that. I guess on that channel specifically, we did one more big thing, which was that choose your own adventure
Okay.
series, and we did that my senior year of college, actually, when I was like there during the summer, and I like spent the first semester putting it all together.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, got you.
yeah, but basically, so yeah, transitioning into college, I was like, we moved to Arkansas my senior year of high school, so I was still interested in video stuff at that time, and I don't remember. I know I was making some little things my senior year of high school. I made that no, Jarek and Josh show.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that was kind of funny.
yeah, that was like my first time experimenting with green screen and stuff. Um, it was basically like a children's show with like two incompetent hosts. That we filmed completely like on a tiny, tiny segment of my bedroom
It
wall
was
that I had covered in green screen. Like it wasn't a proper green screen; it was just poster board.
did I'm trying to remember. So quite frankly, I've watched so many of these things over the years and stuff. So a lot of it's ingrained in my head. But like,
Yeah.
is didn't like one of you? Was it you? You like punched the wall and then like I don't remember if no, you
Um,
didn't like put a hole in the wall or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking something
oh, that might have happened. Yeah, I think that did happen. I kind of forgot about that.
else.
It was
There's
like kind of minor, but
okay.
yeah,
I just remember like you actually punched it. So like
yeah,
uh, with Jarek was laughing at you or something like that. I
yeah.
don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of funny things from there.
yeah, lots of dumb little videos.
Well, okay, actually, I'm a little curious. Do you all that stuff you did in high school and college, like, do you still look back on that and like that was cool or whatever, or is it now kind of like, yeah, that was kind of stupid, or
I mean, it's both. It's like it was fun. I mean, that was like that's where I was in life at the time, and I like that kind of stuff was what we found funny. I like a lot. I mean, a lot of the humor I feel like was just like repeating movies and
Mhm.
like taking things from other things that we thought were like funny. Some of it was like original, but most of it is kind of just like whatever. But
Mhm.
I think the important thing is just that I was making stuff. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean that's a thing I would get into later, maybe if I would give advice to people is just to make stuff, and that's like you can't learn anything unless you actually make mistakes and make stuff first.
Yeah, I got you. We
gotta make
will
a lot of gotta make a lot of bad stuff before you can make good stuff.
we'll for sure we'll talk about that probably at the end, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so what about like post college and stuff? Because you like was it senior project you had for college? You had to make like some kind of film, and then
Yeah.
moving forward
Um,
from there.
yeah. So college itself, um, you get lots of like kind of little assignments that sometimes you do just by yourself, sometimes you do with a team. But for your senior project, you have to do like a thesis film.
Hmm.
Um, and I like wanted to be really ambitious, and I had like written this script that was like 60 some pages, 50 to 60 pages.
Oof.
And so I wanted to do that for my senior film, and I was really lucky because my senior year I lived with the house of guys, and two of the guys I lived with like also were in the program and I was friends with them,
Hmm.
and they were like on board for doing this project with me as their senior project as well.
Oh, okay.
So my friend Frank was the cinematographer, and Matt was like the assistant director and did some help with the editing as well.
Okay. So you didn't have to tackle that project all on your own at all.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely wouldn't have been possible if it was just me completely by myself.
Hmm. So that was, you said, as a thesis film or whatever. Was that so? Basically, it's just like a movie with a point, kind of. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess is like the thesis part of it isn't like anything. It's just like you have to do a more substantial project for your
Oh, okay.
senior project. Yeah. It's not like a thesis paper in the sense of like
Oh, okay. So now,
this has
like,
to be a very
my three
poignant
main points are
research.
X.
Yeah, no. No.
Okay, I see what you mean. Um, so then moving forward from that, what did you do? Because that was like your last big project that was like required for school or whatever. So what'd you do after that?
Yeah, so after that was definitely a transition period in my life. Like I
Mhm.
said, I moved back home for a little bit after graduating. Then I moved out to Oregon. Um, I made some friends out there. I actually started to make one video with a friend when I was living in Sandy, Oregon. And we actually filmed some of it, but then it just kind of like, I don't know what happened. The rest of it kind of fell apart. Like it was
Okay,
just kind of a rant. It wasn't really like a film. It was more just kind of like a funny video thing. I don't know.
gotcha.
It was one of those things that's in between. You might have been able to call it a film. I don't know. But that kind of died, and then after we got married, we moved to this. So basically, we took this self storage job where we were the managers of a self storage facility, and we lived on site there. And it was kind of a really flexible job where like not much was happening in the office. Like you had to be in the office all day, but not like, some days you would only have a couple people who
Mm-hmm.
came into the office like all day. So there was like a lot of downtime. And so I took advantage of that and like started writing a short film. Um and I spent, I don't know how long doing that, like a couple months doing that. Um and then I decided, all right, I'm going to make this. And then so I assembled some people for that. I met some friends on Craigslist. Like I put a call out for a cinematographer basically, and
Huh.
I met up with a couple people. Um, the first guy I met up with, he was very like talented, um, and I had like a good conversation with him, but he also just like kind of seemed like he wasn't super into it.
Hmm.
Like in the that like this is kind of the hard thing when you're making movies without any budget, is the whole aspect of like no payment for people.
Yeah.
And like, so if you have somebody who's more on that professional level, it's like it, I mean, it totally makes sense from their perspective of like,
Yeah.
I'm not, unless I'm super into it, I'm not gonna like, yeah.
Basically, you're mostly getting people who are in it for just the sake of making it, kind of, or to like get
Yeah,
their name out there, things like that.
yeah, to get some experience and stuff. So I didn't end up going with that guy, and I met up with another guy I met on Craigslist, TJ, and he was like really into it and wanted to do it. And so he was my cinematographer, and he's become one of my buddies. And his wife was also really into film, and now she's like, at that time she was like pursuing acting, but now she's become like a really good director,
Hmm.
really good writer too. So yeah.
So so what wound up happening with that project then? I mean, you met some people and then
Yeah. So I met, those two were like the big people in the beginning to help me push it forward. And so we decided that I did make needed some money to make it, because it was like a 30-minute film is what it
Mhm.
was going to end up being, and that's a fair amount
Yeah, yeah.
of shooting there. And it was kind of a sci-fi film, so there was going to be some stuff we were going to need, and we were going to shoot like on the Oregon coast for a good portion of it, so we were going to need to like book a location to have all the cast and the crew stay at. We needed to rent equipment because we didn't really own that good of equipment.
Mhm.
uh, so we put together a crowdfunding campaign on Seed and Spark, which is, it's kind of like a Kickstarter, except it's specifically for film.
Okay.
Um, and I think the budget was like somewhere around $3,000, and we ended up raising that money. And so then we went and made it, and the rest of the crew, I want to say, wasn't that big. We had maybe there was somebody who was running sound. Oh, there was like one person running sound, and then one person who was kind of assisting TJ with the cinematography. Uh,
Mhm.
so it was a really small crew, and then we had basically three main actors in the film. So um, yeah, we put that together. It took a little while because there was a lot of visual effects shots, and I edited the film and did all the visual effects myself.
Mhm.
So I want to say somewhere between 6 to 9 months to edit it. And then we had like a premiere party, and then I submitted it to a couple of festivals, like not too many, because film festivals are expensive
Oh,
to
okay.
submit to. You have to pay submission fees for most of them. but we did get into like two or three, I think, and uh, one of them was like in England,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and actually my um, actor Taylor, she got like some kind of nomination for that, like a best
Hmm.
supporting actress or something. So that was cool.
So overall, the project, it took a long time, had a lot of hard work put into it. I mean, doing all the VFX stuff by yourself like that sounds like kind of a nightmare. That sounds like it'd take forever. Um,
Yeah, that was a fair amount of work.
but in the end, you had a what would you describe it as? Like a successful project, and then like a moderate amount of exposure with it, just fairly small, but
Yeah, it was a pretty small project, and it's interesting because it's actually kind of got more exposure over the last couple of years.
oh, okay.
Yeah, on YouTube, it's like kind of just slowly been getting views. It's close to 100,000 now.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, I didn't know that.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I do think part of it is because so the film is called Arcadia Bay. It's set on the Oregon coast,
Hmm.
and there's this game that came out called Life is Strange. Uh,
Oh,
and
yeah, no, for sure, I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
and that game is set in a town called Arcadia Bay and on
Oh,
the
no way.
coast, and they definitely used the Oregon coast as scenery, like as like the
Uh-huh.
setting. Like it's very Oregon Coast inspired, like and very very similar to a lot of the areas we shot in.
Huh.
So I've definitely got like a lot of comments on the YouTube video
Talking about
of
Life is
like,
Strange.
is this inspired by Life is Strange? So I definitely got like a little bit of a strange bump from that, and it was yeah, and it was just like we both. It was made like before the game was released. There's just
Mhm.
like no, influence on each other at all. But it was
That is so weird because
yeah.
I played through that game, with 2 of my college buddies,
Oh, really?
just last fall,
Okay,
and
that's
so,
cool.
yeah, no, it was weird because I would see these things for Arcadia Bay within the game, and I'd be like, "Oh, wait a second. This is the thing that Josh did," and so I didn't even make that correlation, though, that might give you more exposure incidentally, so
Yeah, yeah. Thankfully, most of it hasn't been like negative of like, what this isn't this, you know. But
Well, yeah, I mean, I think most people
yeah,
recognize that they're 2, like, totally different
yeah.
game
But
things.
I mean, most of the time, I wouldn't recommend that because most of the time, you're not going to make people happy by confusing them.
Mhm.
Of like, I'm going to name my thing a similar thing to this so that they'll think it's
Well, and
it's similar thing.
that was
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
incidental, like, that
yeah.
wasn't planned or anything,
But
but
it's actually slightly worked for this, I think. But
hmm.
I don't think that's where the majority of the views are coming from. I think it's just looking at like the YouTube analytics from what I can see, it seems like it's just that it gets recommended because you like some other sort of sci-fi-ish film on
Hmm.
YouTube. I think that's where most of the views are coming from.
Okay, so that's cool. I didn't know that. I knew it was
Yeah.
last I remember seeing it because I do remember you put it on YouTube, but that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of weird. I don't know when it happened, but I just remember like somewhere around 2 years ago, I looked at it and it had like 50,000 and it was like getting, yeah, just it gets about 100 so views a day.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what I mean, I was gonna mention this later, but what if people wanted to look it up? What would they have to search on YouTube?
If you just look for Arcadia Bay short film, it should pop up. Let me just see what happens actually if I just do Arcadia Bay.
Okay.
I think if you do Arcadia Bay, you'll find it, but it's not going to be like the first
Hmm.
result probably. Yep, Life is Strange is the first result. It's called Arcadia Bay Sci-Fi Short. So
Okay.
on mine, it's the third one down, but if you're
Okay,
for Arcadia Bay, but who knows? It
gotcha.
might be different for somebody else.
And it's about half an hour, you said?
Yes. It is
Okay.
kind of a strange length. Um, that is a thing I have had some issues with trying to.
Yeah, because isn't it so to to qualify as a short film, doesn't it have to reach a certain number of minutes or things like that?
It really depends who you're asking.
Well,
Short
like, for,
for a
like, a film festival or
yes,
something.
for a film festival, it needs to be it needs to be 30 for most film festivals.
Oh, okay.
And I think I made it. I'm gonna look see if it's any different on YouTube. Yeah, it's 29 minutes and 54 seconds.
Oh.
That is the thing I really did on purpose. Like I might have sped the credits up a little bit to get it under that
Oh, really?
30-minute mark. Yeah, and that is definitely a thing that I think hurt it trying to
Hmm,
send it to film festivals because if you're thinking about like making a film festival block, like
mhm,
let's say you have a 90-minute block where you're going to short films. Like if you
mm,
think about that as like, oh, I'm going to make a awesome mix CD, you wouldn't put a 30-minute song on
mm.
your mix CD
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when all these other songs are like 3 to 5 minutes. It's like, cool, I could show 10 3-minute films or I could show one 30-minute film.
Yep.
Like regardless of how good or bad that film is, it's going to take up a lot of time.
Mm. That'd be interesting to try and coordinate as a film festival,
Yeah. Yeah.
coordinator or whatever their title is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, what are you doing now? I know you have stuff for work that you're doing now. We can talk about that, and then you also have another film that you can talk about to whatever
Yeah.
degree you need to.
Yeah. So basically, after Arcadia Bay, like I went basically straight into another project. One of my funders, basically from the campaign, reached out to me afterwards, and he's a producer
Hmm.
with some connections in Hollywood, and basically he asked me if I wanted to like do this feature film. And so I was stoked and I was like, yeah. So he gave me a script. I wanted to make some changes to it. And I spent basically quite a while trying to rewrite that and putting that together. And we did shoot it and I have edited it. Um, and like basically we're trying to like shop it around right now to
Mm,
some
I see.
potential buyers and we'll see
So
what happens with that.
in its current form, it's like technically complete, I guess. Is that what you're trying to say? But
Yeah, it's
okay,
it's complete now. Yeah.
okay. But you don't know where it's going in the future, so
Yeah, it could.
okay.
I think we'll probably it I think it is going to end up somewhere eventually, um if it doesn't get picked up by a distributor.
Hmm.
There's
Did
still other options, for you to put it out yourself now.
did you what? How long did you wind up getting it to? Obviously, from you had it for half an hour for Arcadia Bay, or
Yeah, so this is a feature, um, a full length movie, and this one is 80 minutes.
okay.
Yeah, which is like basically like I mean, there is feature films that are less than 80
Hmm.
minutes, but 80 minutes is kind of like what I would say as like the minimum
Yeah.
standard.
Well, I mean, there are definitely some really good movies though that are shorter because, like, I'm trying to think of like Dunkirk. Isn't that movie only like 90 minutes or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
that's about 90 minutes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of good. I think 90 is like, oh yeah, that's really
mhm.
solid. 80 is kind of like, ooh, that was short. That was a short movie.
Yeah, you have the like all right, that was a short movie versus the. I feel like they could have maybe you know added in like an extra 10 minutes and we would have been good.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think you already talked about it a little bit earlier, but so what all do you get to do for work now? Because you're in the creative process, but are you making just videos for the company? Do you get to make YouTube stuff still, or?
Yeah, so I've been working at this digital marketing company for like 2.5 years now, and so it's kind of funny how the job has changed over the course of working there. Because when I first started working there, it didn't seem like they had like anything specifically that they wanted me to do. Like
Hmm.
they were just kind of like, "Hey, look at some of our blogs and see if maybe those could be videos." Or like, let's make some videos for our website. So I know in the beginning it was a little like weird because I was trying to make up work for myself to do. But
Mm-hmm.
after that, we started getting more direction as like our team kept growing. I'm on the marketing team for the marketing company, which is kind of confusing. But basically,
Yeah.
like, so like what we do as a company is uh, do digital marketing for people. So like Google Ads is one of
Mm-hmm.
the big things we do, and that's basically like when you search on Google and you see those like ads that are above the search results that say ad next to it.
Hmm.
That's what we basically help customers get those like towards the top so they can sell more things.
I see.
And then we also do some stuff with like Facebook ads and search engine optimization. But so like I'm on the marketing team, which is the promotion for the company itself, which is kind of hard to like market the marketing
Hmm.
company because like you're not marketing like a product in this, like, like if you were like selling, I don't know, some kind of cool, I can't think of anything. A cup, a
A
very
cool cup.
cool, a very cool mug. You
Okay.
could do like a really cool video shoot of it, of like, oh, we're gonna light it really cool, and then we're gonna like do
Yeah.
a 360 around it. We're gonna show slow motion of like coffee pouring into it,
Oh yeah.
like.
I'd buy that mug.
But yeah, but with this, it's like there's no like tangible product. It's like a service. But
Hmm.
anyways, so I do all sorts of stuff. I For a while we were doing a lot of stuff on our Instagram. Like sometimes we were doing like almost funny put together videos for Instagram. Um, Nowadays I'm a little bit more focused on growing our YouTube channel, especially with like coronavirus and stuff. We're trying to like
Mm-hmm.
put out more relevant videos on the YouTube channel. I did this one just a week or two ago that was actually kind of interesting and cool to put together. Um, Basically about like how these big companies made it through like recessions.
Hmm.
So it's about Coke and Netflix, um, and like Coke basically made Santa Claus what he is today, of
Oh
like
yeah.
how he looks and stuff. Yeah, so that was kind of interesting, and it helped their sales a lot, like during the Great Depression,
Mm-hmm.
because people really connected with Santa Claus and like kind of the cheerfulness and the joy
Mm-hmm.
that he had during this kind of dark time and stuff. So yeah, interesting.
So you had to go and like research all those things yourself then,
Yeah,
or?
yeah. Which most of the time it's a little bit easier than that, but I have gotten a little bit more into the writing side of it
Mm-hmm.
now, which I both enjoy and also sometimes don't like. Writing is hard when you just like can't come up with anything.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Um, Anything else you want to say in regards to the just stuff you've done in the past, or?
Yeah, so like basically coming this last film I did took up a long, long, long time. Um, I did because I did a fair portion of it
Mm-hmm.
myself. And so after editing all that, I was a little like, I don't know, I was a little burned out. And so I didn't do any projects for a little while. Um, and then like last year, I kind of decided to ease my way back into like the more creative film video world. So
Hmm.
I decided I was going to do some music videos. And so I did three. I just finished one. I've done three music videos in this last year. Um, but with this last one, I'm kind of like, yeah, I think I'm good on music videos now. Like, I don't think that's what I really want to
Huh.
do more of. So I would like to get back into making some films now.
Gotcha. So to clarify with that, is that you're doing music videos for other people, right? Not like
Yes, no.
making your
I
own music.
I don't have any original music I've been making. No.
Okay. Gotcha. Um, that's awesome. All that stuff. So we're gonna broaden the scope a little bit. All right, we got the personal picture.
Yeah.
Um, still a little bit the personal picture here, but what let's talk about filmmaking in general, I guess. For you personally, what are your favorite aspects of the creative process of filmmaking? Um, we'll go with like your top three or something like that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Uh I have such a hard time picking a top 3 of anything.
Okay.
Um, I
Well,
would
it doesn't
definitely
have to be, doesn't have to be in order. Just
yeah. I guess I'll talk about some different things. So like editing is definitely something that I probably have the most experience with editing out of anything. Uh,
mhm.
and editing really is responsible for so much, and yet most of the time if it's well done editing, it's kind of invisible.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but I mean, that's honestly like what can make or break somebody's performance in a movie.
Huh.
Like just picking the right take in the right moments to create something emotional is super like I don't know, it's interesting and it's kind of like a gut instinct thing a lot of times.
Hmm.
Uh, but like there's sometimes in film that you will probably be seeing an actor who like maybe isn't actually acting in that moment. Like maybe they grabbed a little moment in between takes or something where they weren't like necessarily like meaning to be doing what they were doing, or they were just maybe in
Huh.
character and it was like grabbed from a different moment or something. Um, there's all sorts of interesting stuff like that that you've like find yourself using of like, wow, yeah, that's like the right emotion I want to convey or like the right reaction I want them to have or something like that. So yeah, I like editing a lot. Um, editing is like with all like anything where you have to assemble something big, you will go through phases with it of like where it's fun and then there's like phases where it's not fun at all. And you really just have to like push through it.
Hmm.
Like making a first rough cut of something is rough. Because you watch it back and it just like sucks. You're like, wow, this is so unwatchable. And then you just like cut it down and cut it down and cut it down and like until eventually it starts getting good. And like a very important part of that is like taking breaks from it and like showing it to other people, like
Mm.
to get their
Yeah.
opinion because you start going a little crazy, like you start losing a sense of like what it is at all,
Yeah.
like I don't know what this is, like joke, like the thing that was really funny, like a really funny joke, you've like now watched it like 1,000 times and you're like,
Hmm.
is this funny? I don't know. Like I feel like comedy and like horror where like you're like trying to do a jump scare, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, does this jump scare work? I don't know.
It's like I've seen it so many times, like it
Yeah,
doesn't get me
like
anymore, you know?
I made this up, like
Huh.
yeah. So editing definitely. Um,
Well, actually, hang on a second before
Yeah.
you keep going with that. So editing, uh, that would involve. So you are definitely taking trying to find those best moments of the actors' performances and things like that. Is
Yeah.
that also like the audio at all? Is that included in the broad scope of editing, or is that more of an audio engineering position or
Um,
something?
I think it depends on what you're
Like
talking about.
the
If you're
type of
talking about
editing that you enjoy.
yeah, I do enjoy working on, like, the audio and making it sound good, but I also do not claim to be, like, an audio engineer or anything
Hmm.
because, like, if I had one of those, like, I my film could sound, like, you know, that much more amazing if I had somebody who really, really knew what they were doing, like, mixing everything and setting things at the right levels and, like,
Hmm.
being able to do it in, 7.1 sound or whatever, where, you got things mixed to, like, different little speakers, like, and the sound sweeps around you and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I would say it's included when you're, like, working on, like, smaller projects or lower budget projects where you're kind of the one person handling all of the post production. But it's definitely an art, and, like, when you get to a more professional level, like, it would be, like, so worth it to, like, pay somebody to do that.
I got you. Well, I see. It was funny though because you brought up editing and stuff, and I'm just kind of starting a lot of getting to understand how this process works. But
Yeah.
like, so I made this one, short videos like 8 minutes long or something, and that video like it was dumb, it's stupid, it wasn't hard, so it was like I I already had it kind of planned out, but like I recorded it and then I edited it like all in one day. And it was just like I just blazed through it just because it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But then I've had some of these podcasts where I'm basically going through audio and listening to a conversation I had with someone else. And depending on how good you are at recording these podcasts and stuff, you can get away with very minimal editing for just
Yeah.
audio, but still sometimes it's like, oh, this is taking forever. Like I have to, cut this part and then it's I don't know. It's really like if you have like an awkward silence for like 5 seconds, it's like, well, I gotta edit that.
Yeah.
And it just kind of adds up over the process of, an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like what you're doing, if you were gonna, like, compare it more to, like, the film video world, it's almost
Mhm.
like documentary, where it's, like, very, very long
Mm.
takes on, like, a very long, unbroken amount of footage that you have to, like,
Yeah.
sort through. No,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
can't
I don't
imagine.
I no, like, so I don't have the, like, all right, we're gonna film this one 10-second clip, right? And
Yeah,
then we're gonna redo it to get a good take.
right.
It's a lot of like long take and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which
Like, editing is important in, like, the narrative film world, but
Mhm.
editing is, like, everything in the documentary world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there isn't a structured script to follow or anything. It's like, "Yep, we have this, giant pile of footage
Yep.
now, turn that figure out a story out of that."
Ugh, yeah. It can
Yeah,
be a little rough sometimes. So
yeah,
I like your advice of the, there'll be fun parts and rough bits, like,
yeah.
just hang in there.
Yeah, it's really fun when you start looking at all the footage and, like, picking the best takes, and
Mhm.
then it's, like, kinda fun when you're putting them together, but then you're like, "Wow, this really," like, because there's no, like, going back to sound, like, there's no sound effects or, like,
Yeah.
anything for you to suspend your disbelief, like, at
Mhm.
all, like, especially if you're not doing, like, a drama film, if you're doing, something that's, like, action, sci-fi, horror, like, all of that stuff, like, relies so heavily on music and
Mhm.
sound effects, and so it's just, like, terrible watching a scene that's, like, supposed to be suspenseful, and it's just like,
Can, can you
There's nothing
imagine?
there.
Can
Yeah.
you imagine being the editor for like A Quiet Place initially, like the first rough
Yeah.
take of that movie?
Oh man, that would be just like putting together a silent film.
um, actually, though, I am curious. So you said a, f- a good, a well edited film, you probably won't even notice like how well it's edited just because it just also seamless.
Yeah.
What can you think of off the top of your head? What's a good film that illustrates like editing done well?
Oh man. Um well, see, the problem with this is that the first examples that come to my head are the opposite of like
Okay.
because there are some films that I was actually potentially going to talk about here that the editing is more apparent,
Huh.
but it's very good. Um but as far as invisible editing goes,
Well, you can do either one. We can talk
yeah.
about both.
I mean, we could talk about like something that's maybe a little bit more in between of like Dunkirk or something where
Yeah.
the editing is a huge part of that movie. Um, but I don't think you're necessarily like it's not like super flashy, like
Hmm.
crazy editing. But the way that that film plays with time and with like the structure of it is like super
Yeah,
interesting.
because you have like you have the three different fronts, right?
Yeah,
You have the what is it the air, the sea, and the land. But then there's
yeah,
also time, right? Where isn't it?
yeah,
It shows like a full day with one, and then like an
yeah,
hour or something. Can you explain that a
yeah.
little bit?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's like one sequence, I can't remember which is which now. I think the land is the longest,
Yeah,
the
I'm pretty sure.
sea is the second longest, and the air is the shortest.
Hmm.
And some of the things are happening simultaneously. But like some of them are like you think they're actually happening like at the same time. Like that's kind of the way the film treats it.
Hmm.
But it's, like, not actually happening at the same time, like, the ideas are connected, like and I can't remember all the examples of that now, but I remember there's, like, one scene where you think, like, a plane is gonna, like, come get them or something, and then it's, like, a plane that was actually shot down earlier
Hmm.
in the film that you saw that moment earlier, and, like, it's just, like, really interesting to, like, see these moments happen again, or, like, you see there's, like, that scene with Harry Styles, I think, um or maybe he's not in it. The other, whatever the main guy in that
I
film
think
is,
it.
like, he's like
Yeah, I think
getting
it is
in.
Harry.
He's like getting in that rowboat, and Killian Murphy is like helping him into the rowboat. But you see that
Okay.
Killian Murphy is like you've already seen him later in the film where he's
Hmm.
on like he's been like on a sunken boat, and yeah, it's just like plays with time in this really interesting way.
Hmm. That's
Um,
cool.
so that's a film. I mean, that's definitely like writing and editing, but yeah, the way it plays with editing is super interesting.
Yeah. Well, it feels like watching that film like the jumps between the different fronts is really seamless,
Yeah.
but like it's cool because you do have it just does a good job of keeping all three aspects engaged even with the different time,
Yeah.
time bits and stuff.
Yeah. But I would say like I think like if I want to point out a bad example
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
editing, um I don't know if you've seen Bohemian Rhapsody.
I haven't. That's the new one, just came out like a year ago,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It actually won best editing. And
What,
there
really?
was tons of YouTube videos that were basically just pointing out how bad the editing was.
Huh.
And it's just like the editing in that movie is like cutting every like 2 seconds to
Hmm.
like another person, another close up, another close like the scenes just like have no flow to them. Like there's like no chill. Like it's just like okay, cut to this person, cut to this person. Like it's just like kind of this weird fake energy that they're like
Huh.
trying to insert into the movie. Um yeah, I
So
don't know.
you disagree with the critics
I
of
do.
of
I
whatever the
disagree
nominee.
with the Academy.
Well, that is interesting though because I've watched some of like Corridor Crew videos on
Yeah,
YouTube,
I love those.
which they got the VFX and the stuntmen,
Yeah,
both of them, and that is something that I think about a lot with the stunts of like the bad edits are super jumpy and like they're just flashing
yeah,
all over the place to like create action versus being able to actually center in on like a fight scene and what's actually going on.
yeah.
So,
And like side note, I think if we're gonna talk about like a beef with the Academy Awards, I
mhm.
think like stunts should totally be a category. There's like yeah, like stunt work. That's like totally like a whole category on itself, you know?
What's uh what's one of your favorite stunts or movies with stunts?
I mean, I love the like, and I guess the whole thing of it is that some of them aren't stuntmen. I love the like recent Mission Impossible
Yeah,
movies.
I
Mission
thought you were
Impossible Fallout, that movie is just like Tom Cruise is insane.
gonna say that.
He's
Yeah.
he's insane. Yeah.
Um yeah, I agree. I think stunts should be an award that they do some crazy things.
Yeah.
Um okay, so going back, so editing, that's one of your top
Yeah.
favorites.
So one of
What
3
would you
down.
what would you go with what would you go with next?
Um oh, this is hard to pick. Okay, I'm gonna say I feel like I have 5 in my head. You know, 5.
Okay. I mean, we could go 5. We could talk about all 5,
I think
but
some of them are kind of tied.
okay.
Like tied into each other. Like writing and directing is can be hard to separate because you have people who are writer directors,
Yeah.
which is like kind of where I fall into that
Okay, well,
category.
let's go with that then. We're gonna say writing
Yeah,
and directing are the same, even
yeah.
though
Even
they're not, but
yeah,
like
but if you're all the writer and the director, then they are kind of
yes,
the
yeah.
same.
Okay, so what about that process do you enjoy or appreciate?
Um, I mean, the whole process of coming up with the a movie is just like I guess it's really gratifying when you actually like come up with something and you're like, "Oh, whoa, I wrote that."
Mhm,
And like the whole I think I really enjoy the whole problem solving aspect of it. Um these two things do start to separate, but when you're writing, that's a huge part of everything is like, all right, I'm going to put my characters in these situations and like how are they going to resolve? How am I going to get
mhm.
them out of it? And like everybody kind of has different processes for writing. I feel like I have like a really long ways to go on my writing abilities. Like there's s- some things I feel like I have stronger and some things I like have weaker aspects of my writing, but
So what is your process, I guess, when coming up with a story? Like do you start with a scenario? Do you start with like a message in mind, or what for you is writing, I guess?
yeah. Um I think I'm still figuring out the best way to think about that, like what the best process is. But in the past, like this last film I did, I don't. That's a little bit. I'm not really going to count that because because there was an existing script and I just kind of took it and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did different things with it. But like Arcadia Bay, like that film, I think I started with kind of a plot concept and I knew how I like wanted it to end. Um, I think endings are always like really important for me, like knowing where it's gonna land. Um,
Mhm.
then you can kind of reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of been my process in the past, but there are definitely issues with working that way because if you get too caught up in sort of the plot of it, um, then sometimes your characters just sort of feel like they're devices of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're like meant to carry the plot and they're not like making the hard decisions, like, things maybe feel a little too predestined for them in the
That
story.
I that's kind of I talked about this earlier with Christina, but that's my main qualm with the last Star Wars movie is
Yeah.
that I just felt like everybody like was just there to serve the plot. Like not
Yeah.
totally, but like it happened a lot.
No, I just feel like they really dialed it in. Like, I just felt like yeah, I think you can make so many complaints with all the other Star Wars movies, but
Yeah.
with this movie, it just felt like, all right, we have to put a movie out, and
Yeah.
like it just felt like such a like a studio movie, I guess, of
Yeah, yeah,
like
100%.
the prequels, like there's just things in the prequels that are so bad, but they're good in a way because they're a unique
Yeah,
vision
I
that
felt like
George
there was
Lucas
still a
had.
direction behind it, even though
Yes. Like, I would so much rather watch something that is, like, kind of bad, but is, like, unique, like,
Mhm.
because it's the vision of one person.
Yeah.
That's always gonna be, like, I think better than, like, alright, the studio wants to make this movie, and it's, like, 50 people's ideas, and we're compromising.
Ugh,
Like, "I think it
yeah,
should be this. I think it should be that." "Well, okay, well, let's do this then."
yeah,
That's just what the last movie kind of felt like to me. It's
mhm.
which is like a huge bummer.
I know, I was so around this time, I asked the fateful Star Wars question, knowing full well that it could result in a long tangent, and it did. So, if you're not particularly interested in The Last Jedi, um, just skip forward about 11 and a half minutes. That'll take you to right around the end of the tangent, and then we'll keep going from there with our conversation about filmmaking. I left it in there because there is a lot of stuff related still to filmmaking, and it was just fun. So, but I figured I'd give you a fair warning if you're not particularly interested in that movie. But yeah, let's just keep going. Okay, hold up. We gotta talk about this real quick. I already did this with Christina, so I can't
Yeah.
go through it all again. But what I gotta know, why do you like The Last Jedi? What's the 1 minute pitch for that movie? Because I don't get it. I
Yeah. Okay, I feel like that movie is it's just so unique. Like, I feel like it's like out of these 3 films, it was the one film that was, like, trying to do something different, and, like, Ryan Johnson had a unique vision for
mhm.
the Star Wars world, and, like, this is the film that introduced the idea that Rey could be nobody. Like,
Yeah.
that is such a compelling and unique idea that I don't think you find it in, like, any other of these, like, kind of young adult series,
Mhm.
like, Harry Potter's parents were, like, these wizarding masters, and,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I guess, like, maybe if you're gonna look at Lord of the Rings or something, like, Frodo is just, like, nobody,
Oh, but
but you've got Aragorn,
you got, you got like Bilbo, who he went on an
Yeah,
adventure
that's
and
true,
stuff.
and
So
Aragorn is, like, this king from royal
yeah.
blood, and it's like, so, like, I loved that part of it, and, like, just, like, the idea that, like, anybody could have the Force, and then but he
Mm,
was also, like, bringing in the unique idea of, like, like, maybe that's also, like, anybody could have the Force, but, like, also we all have to, like, watch out for, like, the darkness
mhm.
inside us, and, like, Kylo Ren, like, taking control of his, like, own destiny, like, yeah, like, I get, like, the annoyance of, like, Snoke
Yeah.
being killed, like, maybe he was being set up for something, but then, like, I don't know, just, like, seeing Kylo take the power and seeing him turn, like, even darker because of, like, his hunger for, like, power and, like, oh, now, like, he's become the bad guy and it's, like, his own choice, and just, like,
I
I
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
and they
Yeah.
took that and then they took that nowhere in the last
Yeah, yeah.
movie.
Well, and
Um,
that's not the fault of that movie,
yeah,
I don't think. So,
yeah. And then, like, I don't know, I thought Luke's, like, story was interesting of, like,
mhm.
seeing I really liked, like, the aspect of, like, seeing the different perspectives of, like, what happened and how they each,
Yeah.
like, perceived that event, Um, and like I don't know, just like the final battle with him and Kylo, like the way he like did that force
Yeah.
projection was like
Yeah.
just like a really cool way of like him kind of having this non-violent like confrontation with
Mhm.
Kylo that seemed like really like true to like what he believed. Like it was like a unique solution to that problem. And then I also liked oh, there was like one other big thing in the whole thing with Kylo and Rey, like their whole connection and like using like a very like simple technique, not like a really like sci-fi technique of just like film grammar of like we're going to frame this person on the left side of the screen and then we're going to frame this person on the right side of the scene and they're in
Mhm.
two completely different places but we're going to like put them together as if they're having a conversation
Yeah.
like a really simple idea that was like really well executed and it just like worked really well.
I so I this is definitely the movie I have the most mixed feelings about,
Yeah.
and I think it's because the bad parts in it I just hate so much. Like I just can't get over them, and it's sad because I really do like I appreciate a lot of the things in that film.
Yeah.
And I think initially, like the thing with Luke, I didn't like because, and I think a lot of people didn't like initially. It was like, oh, that's not Luke. But then, like the more you think about it, you're like, okay, it is Luke still. He's different,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I like that it played with people's expectations and didn't.
Yeah, that was a huge I think that's part of what Ryan Johnson does so well is that there's just so much like theorizing of like, oh, what's gonna happen,
Hmm.
in this film and like, he didn't like I just like that he had a unique vision and he wasn't like doing fan service.
Yeah,
Like that's what like sort of like what Force Awakens and I don't know what you would call what the last film was doing. Kind of fan service, but kind of like I don't know why you thought that would be good. Like right off the bat with Luke just like taking the lightsaber and like
yeah,
yeah,
that was
tossing it away. He like right off the bat, you're like, oh, okay, this is not gonna go the way I
yeah,
thought it was gonna go.
yeah.
Um, I think what are your biggest complaints with that film?
I don't like Uh, some of the decisions made in by characters in the film felt
Mhm.
unbelievable to me.
Okay.
So the whole thing with I need to get straight. So Poe's the pilot guy, right? So
Yeah.
he attacks the rebel or he attacks the big fleet because he thinks they can get a good win off of it.
Yep.
Um, and like I kind of support that like decision because it's like okay, it's showing that it's a stupid idea, but he's kind of got that fire in him, right? But then the whole thing where he like the what is it the purple haired lady she like takes over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then she like refuses to explain what's going on
Yeah.
where I get where she's in command and stuff, but like it didn't seem like it was a big enough secret where like their ship isn't bugged or something, like they're not going to find out their plan or something. Like why keep people in suspense and
Yeah.
when you can like prevent them from doing something stupid, like.
Mhm.
And then the whole I like how the was it uh Finn and Rose, I like how their side mission kind of failed. I
Yeah.
like that because it was like unique, but I just thought it was kind of dumb in the first place. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, it didn't really like oh we need a hacker for this or something. Like it seemed a little bit amiss to me.
Yeah. I would agree that the Finn and the Rose part is like definitely the weakest
Hmm.
part of the film. Like that's like my least favorite part of the film, I think. To me, I think I like see that like the unique things with that are probably them finding the hacker guy because that's just like more playing with your expectations of like, oh, this guy's gonna be like a Han Solo
Yeah.
type character, and then he actually like betrays them, which
Yeah.
like I think is like an interesting thing of like, no, he's like just like a bad guy, and you guys like always expect these people to like actually be good in these movies.
Yeah.
And I think like that's the same thing with Poe, like which I think I do like that story with him and with like the commander. Like I
Mhm.
get your point of like why does she have to keep this a secret? But like on the other hand, like why does like Poe have to like know? Like why can't he
That is true.
take orders? Like I think it's kind of almost like a commentary on like these, kind of like really alpha broy
Mhm.
guys in movies of like, well, oh, I'm the action hero, and I know the best, and like I'm the
Yeah.
hot shot, and I'm like I don't have to listen to you, and
Mm.
like my plan always works, and like it's kind of interesting to have this like different character who's like this calm like woman who's like really smart and has like it all together, and it's like you should like sometimes also like listen to people on your team and
Hmm.
like like, not just, like I don't know, like, that's another thing where, like, it's just playing with expectation, I think.
Well, and you know what? It honestly could be because I like the fact that it's playing with my expectations. I think that's unique.
Yeah,
I think that's good. It might honestly just be that I'm literally mad at the characters for being stupid sometimes. Like,
yeah,
why can't you just listen to orders? Or why Rose, why did you like go save Finn? He was gonna save the day, like
yeah.
things like that where maybe
Well,
that's not actually
I don't know if Finn was gonna save the day, but
he thought he was gonna,
that
yeah.
part did feel a little unbelievable to me, like, "Oh, no, like, I can come at him at him at
Yeah,
this exact right angle, and I will
yeah,
stop him from doing this and not kill us both." Like, that seems
yeah,
a little like,
yeah,
"Okay."
yeah. So like I said, I don't know. I see, I get what you're saying, and it makes me like, oh, maybe I should just watch it again and find out.
Yeah.
But like,
I won't say it's, like, perfect,
yeah,
like, but I still think it's, like, very, very
the
good.
good things they did really well, I think, in
Yeah,
that movie. And the only real reason I like the new trilogy is ultimately because of Ray and Kylo.
yeah,
But
yeah,
although I like Luke's character actually.
yeah,
I think he out of all of the old old characters, I think he had the most
yeah,
uniqueness. I
and
guess Han too a little
it's
bit.
interesting because, like, I had seen something about, like, Colin Trevorrow's, like, original script.
Hmm.
Like, there were some things that were different, but it still seemed really bad. And I thought maybe there was gonna be some things like, "Oh, well, it got messed up because, like, Carrie Fisher died," but it
Yeah,
didn't really seem like that was what
yeah.
happened.
It did seem like she was going to have a big role in that movie anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
which I could be wrong. And I'd seen different. I didn't actually see. I heard rumors like, oh, the J.J. Abrams had a different ending, and then Disney didn't like it or something. And I, I don't know if any of that was ever substantiated, but
even if it was, like, Palpatine, like
yeah, yeah, Palpatine's still there. Like, how
Yeah,
did you know
yeah.
finishing writing and directing?
Yes.
Do you want to keep going with that? I guess wherever I don't even know where we left
I
off.
think we were just, like, talking about, like, process. I don't I don't
Okay.
know where it landed on Star Oh, no, what it was I was talking about characters being a device of just, like, the plot.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's where the bunny
So
trail went.
that's something you have to watch out for, and I think I wanna, like, maybe step back from that a little bit, and I don't think I've honestly thought, like, enough about, like, theme and,
Hmm.
like, message when I, like, go into a movie, and I don't think movies have to have a super obvious, like, theme or message, but you, like, kind of even if you don't know it, you kinda subconsciously know it, like,
Hmm.
if I'm like, "What is the theme of," like, Finding Nemo?
Yeah.
And I couldn't really tell you off the top of my head, but you like know what the movie is like
Hmm.
about. It's like about a father and a son, and like the father like learning to let go, and
Hmm.
like like stuff along those lines that really like ground the film and all of like the character choices. Like it's hard to like come up with that, and like how you're gonna perfectly build your world around like that theme and that message, and like make it hard for your like characters. um
Yeah. So what for me? So I haven't done a lot of this. I've done a little bit of video, little bit of audio, like
yeah,
drama type stuff, and I've written quite a few, um, like just stories over the years.
yeah,
And I don't know. For me, it's weird. Like when I was younger, I think um, I would just kind of write for the sake of writing, and like the themes would sort of incorporate themselves into it. But now it's kind of weird where like I feel like I have to have a point going in before I can start the project, which I don't know if that's the best way of like a writing process, because for me I'm like, yes, I need this to be good. I need it to be artistic. I need to be able to communicate my story well to my audience, but I also like how I communicate is ultimately like the most important part of telling the story, because if you can't communicate it well, then your message is lost anyway. But like at the same time, I feel like I have to have a message in before I begin, because then I have something that like I'm committed to doing this work because I want to get this message out there kind of.
yeah,
So I don't know. Maybe that's unique for me versus like what you do in the writing process, but
yeah. No, I think there's definitely validity to what you're like saying there. I think if I was gonna like take a stab at something, I would probably, in an ideal world, I would say like you just write. You have an idea you're excited about, and you like write the first draft of it,
mhm.
and then you kind of figure it out from there. Of like, I think a theme and a message can be sort of retrofitted in a way,
Yeah,
because like what makes good writing good is like mostly editing. It's the same thing with like making a
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Like it's like just go into your first draft accepting that it's going to be terrible, and like if you do
yes,
that,
because it
you
is.
can, yeah, like you can have like so much more fun with it and just like blaze through it, because you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, blah 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 blah,
Yeah, yeah,
and you can just like write crazy stuff, and like you're gonna throw away like a huge portion of it, but like it will give you a starting point.
hmm.
And like that is like something that's like definitely hard for me.
Yeah,
It's like I do not do as much writing as I want to do, because like I have to get over that. And
hmm.
like I wish somebody told me like that's how you should write papers in high school or college. Like I feel like that message
Oh
never
yeah,
never got across to me, of like, oh, like when I was writing a paper, like I would basically like I
like
would
your first
only
draft
do
is your,
one draft. That was my
yeah, your
paper.
first
Like,
draft is
and
your
then I
final
would
draft.
write it super, super, super slowly, because I was like, every sentence has to be
Yep.
like so concise, and like no filler, and yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, I've caught on a little bit to that, where it's like I really don't want to work on this assignment or whatever, but I know if I just you basically just spill my brain out for half an hour, I'll have something on paper and then I can go back and like make it good.
Yeah.
So what about directing? How's that different from writing, I guess?
So like writing, you can be as idealistic as you want.
Hmm. Yeah.
Directing directing is like making the thing become real. And so you have to
Okay.
like make like a million like decisions about like, how do I take this like thing that's written and turn it into a script? And like even if you didn't write the script, there's like so many like unsaid choices in the script that you have to make as a director of like,
Hmm.
all right, how are we going to transition these scenes into one another? Like most of the time when you're like writing a script, like I mean, if you're a writer director, it's a little different. But like if you're like taking an existing script, like it's not like a book where you're like seeing every facial expression is written down and
Yep.
like every intent is there and you're like inside a character's head. Like it all has to be said without saying it. Like it's like subtext, you know.
Hmm.
So there's just like so many decisions of like what is the mood of this scene of like the lighting and like basically like making it a movie and not making it a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I'm curious because I don't know for myself because there are a lot of writer directors, but how often is it where the director is given a script and has like no contact with the actual author of the script, right? Where it's basically you do what you want with this versus the two are like working together to
um,
to make something unique.
I mean, I would say there's probably like a lot of cases where maybe the director has like had a conversation with the writer,
Okay.
but it's not typical that like in Hollywood that like the writer would be on the set of the
Yeah.
film because that's like a weird conflict of interest of like, okay, now this is the director's movie, like
Yeah.
like the writer can't be like making little points and like contradicting the director because then
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it has to be the director's vision and like nothing's gonna get done and everyone you can't be like second guessing the director because there's just so much work to do and so many choices to be made.
Hmm. Is there so you like I'm with the car art I can't talk. So like with Arcadia Bay,
Yeah.
you spent all that time writing it, but then you're also like the director of it, right? So is that was it as hard to transition from your script that you wrote to actually like making a shot, or like how did that process go?
So the writing process of that, as like a quick little side thing, was
Mhm.
kind of unique and weird because I did have a script written, and then I cast one of my actors, Philip, who played the role of Thomas, and he was actually a writer, like he had a writing background,
Okay.
and we like he actually had like a couple like little script things and like suggestions, and so we actually like sat down and went through some things and like made some changes to the script. And like we actually made some it's kind of insane. We made some changes on set, like as well.
Oh.
Like in like after the first or second day of shooting, we're like, wait, what if the world is a little bit more like this? And so
Huh.
that like I think in the end it actually worked out for the good. Um like there were some things that were lost that I was excited about, but I ultimately do think the climax was better because of the new ideas. So like the original idea for the film was that they were not in this um like the world in the film is sort of what is the word I'm looking for? Dystopian.
Mhm.
Um but in the original script it was a little bit more post-apocalyptic. Um and like basically like hardly like very less populated world basically, and so like originally it was like that his friend was like already dead and that he was like gonna wake up alone,
Hmm.
and like this person he was talking to in the simulation was just like a copy of the consciousness of his friend. um
Oh. Huh.
yeah, and like the climax of it was going to be a little bit different of like the other character sort of sacrificing his life for him, but I don't know, I think the way it ended up it was actually a lot cleaner, and like there's kind of this like interesting thing where like one character had to like forgive the other character and stuff. So
Hmm.
I think I liked how it actually ended more, but I don't know, there was like I think there was some more twist elements to the like original script that I enjoyed. But that I don't think I answered your question of like
Oh yeah,
writing to directing.
yeah,
Like there's things in that film that were like very specifically storyboarded out. Like the first example that comes to my mind is like the transition. I don't know if you remember, but like there's the scene where he like starts the film and he's like overlooking Arcadia Bay, and then he kind of does this like he starts having these weird visions, and then he like falls down, and it does this weird like glitch transition from like where he is at the top of this place to him falling into the sand on a beach.
yeah. I very vaguely remember this. Yeah,
Yeah, so that was kind of a creative like transition that had I think I did write it into there, but like you have to figure out like how you're actually going to do it. And most of the times I won't like write it in there unless I feel like I can pull it off because I know I'm going to be the one editing it.
yeah,
Uh, but like choices like that, and then also like of course like a big part of directing is like actually directing actors and like like how like what is like kind of your motivation in the scene and like what are you trying to accomplish and just giving like feedback on takes and stuff.
hmm.
um and like it it's interesting. It's an interesting part I think of working with like lower budget films. If you can't really like pay the actors, a lot of times you won't attract as good of actors.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, auditions is like a huge part of it, like casting. There's like some famous quote about this. So like casting is a huge portion of directing of
yeah,
like if you're working with Hollywood level actors, like it's not so much that you're gonna have to give them like direction because oh that take wasn't believable.
yeah.
It's more like no, I want you to do it like in a different like you have a different attitude about this or a different reaction.
Huh.
Like and like thankfully like I've been like happy with almost all the actors I've worked with, but
Yeah,
like it is just like a whole different thing. Like the casting process is definitely like really really important when you're working on like a low budget thing, or you have to like approach it in a way where it can work with people who aren't that experienced with acting.
yeah. As a director, do you do you personally get to pick kind of like I'm talking like Hollywood film. Like do you literally go to cast like I want this person in my film, I want that person in my film. And obviously, we have people accept it or turn it down or whatever, but what's kind of that process in like more higher budget things?
I think it can depend. Like I think it can be different. Like I think traditionally like there will be like a casting agent
Okay.
for for the film of like, all right, we're casting for these people, and then like that person will probably call the agents of like these, high actors, and then that agent will then talk to their client, the actor, and be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
are you interested in this film?" And they're like, "Yeah," and then they will audition. But then I also know that like there's times where it's just like an actor will approach a director and be like, I really want to be in one of your films.
Huh.
And then the director will cast them. Or it's the other way around of like the director is like, oh, I wrote this story or I like saw this script and I really see this actor being that person.
Huh.
And then they'll, have them audition or the person will just say yes.
Well,
So it's hard
the,
to say, like how often each of those things happens, but
the reason I bring this up is because you know me and my fanboy is um, Christopher Nolan, who's an amazing writer director,
yeah.
and I I love his film so much. But the thing about it is like he always casts like a lot of the same actors in his
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. That's a definitely another thing too, is like, you just develop a working relationship with an actor and you like
Hmm.
working with them. And so then it's just like, yeah, I want you to be in another one of my films.
Yeah.
Um, and it does sort of give like there's the word auteur. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like it's I don't know, it's kind of a real thing, kind of maybe a little overblown, but like it's like a director who's like a very specific style basically. And
Mm.
like that's definitely a thing that like adds to a person's like style of like that you could make a parody of one of their films basically because it's like, oh, they always like cast this person or they always like shoot
Yeah.
their scenes in this way. The cinematography looks like this. This is the kind of music they use, stuff like
Yeah, because I'm thinking off the top of my head, like, right. So things that would make Nolan unique would be uh probably like the big cinematic scores, like the big like scenic shots and things like that. And then like actors like Michael Caine has been in, I think, pretty much every film he's done.
that.
You mentioned Killian Murphy earlier. He's been in most of them.
Yeah.
Christian Bale.
Yeah,
Um,
and like Hans Zimmer like always does the music.
oh, maybe that's why. Yeah,
He always, I mean, this is actually a lot more common, but like he pretty much always works with the same cinematographer. Um, if you're just gonna look like script wise, of course, all of his scripts kind of have like interesting elements of time
yep,
and him
yep.
and playing with the structure.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's just so good. I watched I watched Inception the other day, and I was like,
yeah,
man, this movie's so good. I watched, the one
yeah,
I haven't seen in a long time is Interstellar, which I remember at when I first watched it, it was several years ago, and I wasn't as big of a fan of it. So now I kind of want
yeah.
to go back
That
and watch.
one is, I haven't watched it in a while either, but that is probably the like most recent one of his that I'm like kind of disappointed. Like not
Yeah,
disappointed, but like it's just not my favorite. It's kind of actually I have a weird relationship with that movie because like he there's like so many things in that film where I feel like it's some of his best work.
yeah,
And then but then there's like so many things overall that like it just like don't love.
yeah. I love like the there's some really awesome things like when they're on that one planet and there's like the giant wall of water or
Yeah,
whatever. There's the whole thing where like they if they go down to the planet, like they're gonna age different than the people up.
yeah,
And then the even just recently, like we brought this up, but like there's a that poem, the like "Do not go gentle into that
yeah,
good night" or whatever. Like that was cool that it's a reference to another work of art even within a film. Like, oh, this is really cool. I
yeah,
think my favorite, oh man, I don't know. I like them all. Dunkirk's good. Inception's really good. I think the Prestige is the most interesting one to watch for me.
yeah.
Um,
Prestige is
because
like one of my favorite movies.
it's
I
just
haven't I haven't watched it. It's strange. I haven't watched it in like probably 2 or 3 years now. I don't know why though. Like I think I'm almost scared to watch it because I've been saying like it's one of my favorite movies for so
yeah,
long.
yeah. I get
Yeah,
that. Oh, it's just yeah, it's so good. Like for one, just amazing actors in that movie, but then just such a good like story elements and just
yeah.
everything about it. I just
Like
ah,
the structure of that film is just like so incredible. The way he's going back and forth and plays
yeah.
with everything
Oh, I
and
didn't
and
even
and he
honestly.
does the twist in such a way that it's so rewatchable still.
Yeah, yeah. That's the cool things. I never feel, or at least not really strongly. Like I never because there's all these twists and stuff, but I never feel like I'm gypped as the audience. Like as far as like, oh well, that was stupid. That didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, I should have seen that coming, kind of thing.
Yeah, like all the character motivations and everything are just like make sense. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um. So I mean, we've already talked about a whole bunch of different movies. I guess about the. Is there any other like movie that you really love because of the direction or the writing?
yeah. So I, looking at your questions ahead of time, I know you were like wanting me to give like an example that like kind of did all three of these things, but
Yeah.
So like one film I was gonna bring up that I felt like this is a whole nother rabbit hole. I don't know if you've ever watched any of Edgar Wright's movies.
Uh, you'd have to name them. I know his name.
So he's the guy who did like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and also did Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and he did most recently he did Baby Driver,
Yep.
which that
Okay.
one feel like there's similarities to the other ones, but that one's not as much of a like comedy.
Okay.
Uh,
So is he the writer or the director of these?
he's both. He's a
He's
writer
both. Okay.
director. But I feel like he's somebody who like this is an area where like writing, directing, cinematography, and like sound and music like all just play such a huge part in his films, and like especially like the intersection of like the cinematography and the editing, because the transitions in his movies are just like so good.
Hmm.
Like, and he's really like funny too. Like it's almost like his films are like parodies of these genres. Like Hot Fuzz is kind of like this buddy cop
Yeah.
movie parody, and like Shaun of the Dead is like a zombie movie parody, but they're like not just like a straight up like parody in the way that like whatever like these terrible
Yeah.
scary movies
Not like a
or like
stupid B movie
yeah,
type.
yeah, it's not like actually parodying any specific movie. Like they have their own stories that are these really like funny, good stories. Um, but he like, I just watched this essay, so I'm like stealing all these things from
That's fine.
this. But like he does like visual comedy so well, and it's like a thing that's kind of like lost in American comedy, I guess. Like where it's gone backwards of like when like the very first movies were like slapstick
Yeah.
comedy movies, and they
It's
were
like silent films, right?
yeah
So
they're
it's all
100%
visual.
100% visual gags, and like I would say most like modern comedy movies now are like mostly just like dialogue and
Yeah.
jokes.
Like a
It's
lot of
like
one-liners and things like that.
yeah, it's like all right, we're just gonna like kind of turn the camera on and like shoot these scenes.
Mm.
And like his movies like are actually like movies, like they like are these kind of like action comedy hilarious movies, and like it's like hard to explain all this without like actually you having seen it probably, but I would say like go watch like Shaun of the Dead, and like just the way he does things are so funny. Like he'll do like match cut transitions of like you show like one object and then he'll
Mhm.
connect it to another
Yep.
object
Yep.
into the next scene. um like the way like there's this one scene where like the character is basically like they want to show that they're foreshadowing like what's happening in the world like on the news without the character noticing, and the way
Mhm.
they do that is like him just changing the channels, and all the channels are like
Oh,
leading
okay.
into each other, and it's saying like something really hilarious. Like um
Okay.
yeah,
Huh.
I just like his movies are like you would have to have written it and direct it in such a specific way in order to be able to edit it that the way it's edited, because it has so many like it does have lots of fast cuts, but
Yeah.
it's not like Bohemian Rhapsody where it's like people are just having a boring dialogue scene and you're trying to make it more interesting by cutting every 1 second.
Yeah.
There's nothing here. It's like each shot is like like a super punching zoom, and like whip
Yeah.
pan over to
Yeah.
here, or
Yeah.
whip pan into this other scene, or like there's like this hilarious scene where they're like trying to figure out their plan of like where they're gonna go to hunker down for this zombie apocalypse, and
Mhm.
they like discuss the plan like 3 or 4 different times, and they're like, oh no, we can't do that, and so they like start over every time. But it's like a little
Oh, okay.
different every time of like that they summarize it of like,
Yeah.
yeah, we do this, and then like their reactions are changing in the scenes, like they're getting like bored of it, and like
So,
like
like, it's
stuff like that.
so is it like kind of a really rewarding thing to watch as an audience. So with that scene in particular, if I'm understanding you right, it's like they run through the scene right with
Yeah,
this dialogue for this is the plan, and then
and they're showing
now what
all of
happens?
that
Yeah,
being acted out, and
and
then they're
then
like,
you run through it all again, but it's different this time. Is
well,
that what
yeah,
you're
they like
describing, or what?
they kind of they'll start in the same spot and then it'll like veer off in a different way of like, oh,
Okay,
but we have to do this first, and then like, well, then we'll go there, and then we'll like
okay.
do this or that,
So
and
it's kind of like a fun thing to watch as the audience because you
yeah,
get to go back and be like, oh, this is what's
yeah,
different this
no,
time.
and it gets funnier every time because it's not just sometimes the actions are the same, but their reactions are like different. Like the first time, maybe it was kind of long and dramatic, and then it gets quicker and faster each time. Of like, like they killed this zombie, and they're like, "I'm so sorry, Bill." Like it's somebody they knew, and then the next time, they're like, "Sorry, Bill," and then they like whack him, stuff like that.
Huh. Yeah, no, I gotta go watch some of these now. Like
Yeah,
I said, I'd heard of him and like I remember like I've seen like Baby Driver or whatever, like I've seen like the the box cover or whatever. And I
yeah,
I remember you watching Scott Pilgrim.
yeah,
Um but yeah, I gotta go through and watch some of these. It
yeah.
sounds
I
fun.
would definitely watch like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Those are like super fun, and it's the same like two main guys in both. Like
Okay.
all there's like a trilogy they call the Cornetto trilogy because they're eating like this Cornetto ice cream in each of the movies.
What?
Uh, but yeah, like they're all like kind of films with these two guys in them, and they're all really funny. But I would say especially Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Okay. Awesome. Kurt here once again, and yes, do not worry, this is the last time I will interrupt the conversation. Um, I just wanted to say that I actually did go back and watch quite a few Edgar Wright films. So I watched Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and Baby Driver. So first of all, the scene I was picturing in my own head that Josh was trying to describe with the different characters reworking the plan in their head, yeah, I was not tracking with what he was actually describing is in the film. Although it is still quite funny. And yeah, definitely Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz both have a lot of visual comedy that you kind of have to be literally watching out for. And so it was really fun to watch. I actually, of all the movies though, I really do love Baby Driver. It's a super unique kind of action film, but there's a lot to do with sound in that film, and so there's just some really artistic decisions made in that movie that make it like not just another ordinary, high octane Fast and Furious type movie. Like it's got a lot of heart, and it is a very intriguing plot. Although I also give you fair warning, all of those movies are rated R, and they do have a lot of language in them, but I would for sure recommend Baby Driver, and then personally I liked Hot Fuzz more than Shaun of the Dead. But anywho, just thought I'd pop that in there, and like I said, no more interrupting. Is there any one last aspect of cinematography that you'd like to talk about, or
Um,
filmmaking rather?
Filmmaking. Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't like get into cinematography that much. Like,
Yeah, because there's a difference between because
yeah,
I've been using that as a broad term for filmmaking, but that's not
yeah,
technically what.
yeah. So technically, cinematography is completely visuals. You have a it's typically on a set. It's called the director of photography, but you could
Okay.
also just call him the cinematographer. Um, and he's like the person who's in charge of like all of like setting up the lighting and like the composition and like controlling the camera moves and everything. So like the director and him would have like storyboarded everything ahead of time, and they will like make some decisions like on set together and stuff, but like ultimately he's like the person who's like in control of all that stuff and makes it happen.
Hmm. Okay. So is that the last thing you'd like to talk about then is cinematography, or is there a different aspect of film?
um I don't know what I've said. I would say music too. Music is maybe another area that I really love I don't really have like I have rhythm. I I play drums, but
Yeah, that's true. I forgot
and
about
I
that.
have I have a good like ear for music, but I don't have like any singing voice or like, talent really in the way of like notes and like melody. But I really like in on this last film I did, I worked with this composer who I just like really like his work, and it was really fun for me to like go back and forth with him on the music for the film, and
Hmm.
it's just like it's kind of crazy how like big of an impact music can have on the movie and have on the emotions of a scene and how well it works. Um,
So
and it
you
and it
got
depends on the movie too, because some movies music's not that important, and then some movies like Star Wars,
yeah.
like the music is so front and center, and you
Yeah,
can't
for
imagine it
sure.
without it.
That whole fight scene of Darth Maul and Qui-Gon
Oh
and
yeah,
Obi-Wan, like that wouldn't be it. Like it'd be cool, but it's the music that makes that scene, I think. So,
yeah. And some movies have different approaches to music of where it's like a little bit more of a it's not meant to be like, like a thing that's going to get stuck in your head that you're going to
yeah,
remember. It's more of a like a just a
like sort of like a
ambient.
vibe or whatever.
Yeah,
Like this sets the atmosphere for the
yeah.
film, even if I can't remember the exact melody or
Yeah.
whatever. Hmm. Is there one composer or one film? Like obviously Hans Zimmer's really good. Um, that has
Uh,
music that's key to the film, I guess.
uh, I mean, I think there's like a couple different ways you could look at that, but like, anything like John Williams has done is
Hmm.
like key. So Star Wars, Indiana Jones, E.T., like all those Spielberg movie, Jurassic Park, like
Yeah,
those are all,
all those themes are running through my head right now. Of
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's like a great, just like he's like the classical musician of modern music of these great orchestral things. But then I think there's also like interesting like modern music that I like that's a little different that I really enjoy. Like there's this horror movie, It Follows, and all the music in that movie is like synthesizer.
hmm.
Um and it's like I like after I have like listened to that soundtrack, I like started listening to other soundtracks by this guy, and like he did like lots of video games. And like yeah, I don't know what it is, but I like really love that soundtrack a lot. He has this one soundtrack for a video game called Fez, I think.
Oh yeah, okay. What's the composer's name? Do you know him?
Disaster Piece. He
Dis-
also did the music for this game Hyperlight Drifter.
Okay. I'm gonna look
But
at this real quick
yeah,
because
I
I.
listen to Fez all the time.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay. So yeah, those both those games, I know what you're
Yeah,
talking about. I
yeah.
haven't played them yet, but
I've never played them either, but I know the music to them very well.
Fez is like it's like a super unique puzzle pixel art type game.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks interesting.
I don't remember Hyper Light Drifter. I think it's that one might be if I'm thinking of the right one. Uh, no, I'm thinking of a different game, but I've heard of that one too.
Yeah. They're both I know Hyperlight Drifter is supposed to be pretty good. I think it's actually available on Switch, so I might end up getting that at some point.
You have a Switch?
I do now, yeah.
What? I didn't know that.
I ended up getting it like 2 or 3 months ago, so I've just been playing Zelda is like the only main like game. I mean, we have like Mario Kart and Smash Bros and stuff, but like
Oh, okay.
Zelda is like the only like main game we have right now. And it's just
Oh,
like a
that's
game
cool.
that is just so long, especially if you're gonna like try to do everything. So
You're talking about Breath of the Wild, right?
yeah, Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
I
that
love it.
new the Link's Awakening remake too that came
Yeah,
out.
I saw
So
that.
that's cool. I didn't know that.
It's kind of interesting because I played. Link's Awakening on Game Boy.
Oh, you
And,
did? Ah,
yeah, and then I've played Breath of the Wild, but I never played any of those like in between games. Like
huh.
Majora's Mask or what is it, Oracle of Time, right?
Yeah, Ocarina of Time, yeah.
Ocarina of Time. Um,
Or
yeah,
Oracle of Seasons, depending on which one you were trying to say. Um, they kind of combined
yeah.
three different games there. Huh, that's cool. Any sort of last regards you think that, like, what, in short, why do you think filmmaking is why do you think filmmaking is like an important art?
um, I mean, everybody loves movies. I think I don't know if I have to make an argument of like why people love movies, but
Yeah. Or
like
like what makes it unique, I
films is kind of like the culmination of like so many art forms. It's unless there's like some other form of media that will one day be invented. I
mm-hmm.
think film is kind of like the ultimate to me. It's you've got music and you've got sound combined, and you
Yeah.
can do so many interesting combinations with just those two things. And you've got writing, lighting. I don't know. It's made up of like a million little choices that come together into like this one thing, and it's yeah,
Yeah,
love
for
it.
sure. Yeah, I love it too. I think maybe you could make a case for depending for sure on the type of game, but like video games can have a lot of that similar. It's not the same thing because you're a lot of times not dealing with like we need to take this shot from this scene or whatever. Like the editing is totally different, but I think video games, depending on what kind you would play, can have a really diverse balance of like story, and it's unique because it's like interactive too. So
That's true. That's true. I think movies are just like a little more uh one sitting, easily
yeah,
consumable. But like like The Last of Us, I don't know if you've ever played that game.
I
Uh,
did. I played that fall. Or this
that's one
fall
of my favorite games of
for
all
sure.
time, and it's just like the story in that movie is just like wow, like this, like I'm watching a movie basically. Like this
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
like emotional, and it had such like the ending is just like such a
Oh,
feels like a movie. Yeah,
yeah, dude. They're making like a second one or whatever,
yeah,
but now it's like delayed with all this
yeah,
stuff
and
going on.
it's like a bummer because I don't have my PS4 anymore. Like that's basically the only reason I feel like I have to have my PS4. Have to have a
Yeah,
PS4. I just have to like play this game
just to
one
play one
time.
game again.
Yeah.
I so there's one other game you should check out. This is my soapbox game. For story things. Have you ever heard of a game called Hellblade?
No.
Okay, so the full time it's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. That's the name of the game.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
you could get it. I guess you could get it on Steam, maybe, if you don't have a PS4 anymore. But that game is like basically it's a fairly short game. It's like an 8 hour game. Um, fairly short, you know. You probably play through it in like 3 or 4 settings.
Yeah.
But the basic premise is you have this young woman whose um like lover has died, and this is like in a Celtic like Viking setting.
Uh huh.
um and so the simple premise is that she has to descend into hell essentially to bring back his soul. um
Okay.
but what makes it so unique is that the main character um suffers from psychosis. So the whole time you're playing through the game, everything is just off. Like there's like you're supposed to play the game with headphones on for like the best experience, but
Okay.
you're like the whole time like you have voices in your head. It's like your own voice, and they're like talking to you. like whispering things in your head, or and
Wow.
like sometimes it's like related to what's going on, or like sometimes it's really panicked and sometimes it's like really comforting. It's just it's
Yeah.
such a unique experience, and it really like the reason I like it is because story wise, like it plays with the audience so well,
Yeah.
like because like you don't know whether you should trust like what they're saying or not, and sometimes you just wind up listening just because you're so panicked because they're panicked, and then even
Yeah.
visually the things you see in the game are like sometimes disturbing, or I don't like it's just a super unique experience.
Okay, I'm really excited because I just saw that it is on Switch too.
Is it on
Uh,
Switch?
yeah, so I'm gonna
Okay,
definitely play that.
I did not
I'm
know that.
excited.
It
Yeah,
okay.
thankfully they're porting more games over to it. So
Yeah, well, I mean, they ported like what like
Skyrim,
yeah, I was gonna say like The Witcher,
yeah, and The Witcher. Yep.
like it's like super low res and it like runs
Yeah,
low frames,
I know.
but
That's the
it's
only thing
there.
is like the graphics aren't like that
Yeah,
great, and this game looks like it has really good graphics. So now it's like maybe a little bit of a bummer, but
yeah, no, it's so it's like it's a third party studio. It was like an independent game
oh,
that
okay,
I think Xbox bought them, and so there's a second one. You could look up the trailer for that that they're making. But it's super cool because I think it's like 20 some people working on this game, and they
oh
did a
dang,
ton of research on it. And like one of the people who was like working on the game, I don't remember what her role was, but like she was kind of like the stand-in like actress, and
yeah,
then she wound up being the actual actress, and so it's her voice, it's like
oh,
mocapped and
cool.
stuff. It's super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that I went off on a tangent. That was my
That's
tangent.
the name of this episode is the tangents.
The tangent, the great tangent. Um, yeah. So I mean, you know, for sure, like filmmaking is just such a unique thing. It's awesome. Um, I personally, there's definitely like there's popcorn films, like it's just all studio, like it's an industry. But personally, I love like just regarding it as an art form. Um, and I don't know, like, would you agree with that? That it's totally an art form versus just a money making thing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, maybe it depends on the movie, but
Yeah,
some movies are definitely both. Some movies are definitely, there just to make money. And sometimes it's a little bit of both. It's money and entertaining.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
it depends. But yeah, I mean, it is definitely an art form. And especially if you like I've actually been watching more like art house movies lately, which is just like a whole new world if you start going down that rabbit hole. Movies that are a little bit more experimental or like don't follow like traditional film
huh?
narrative, and
I'll have
they're
to look that
very
up.
like some of them you're like, okay, what did I like watch? Like what? But like, but then it sticks with you, and then you like keep thinking about it, and you're like, whoa, like yeah, it's just like that. I mean, that's kind of like art, like
Huh?
when you like you're staring at a painting that maybe you're like maybe it's a bunch of blobs, but it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, there's something like, what does this mean to me? Like this is evoking a strange emotion
Hmm.
in me, and that I think that's honestly that's a little bit of why I like wanted to do some music videos this year, is like explore the a little bit more experimental form of videos where maybe things don't make like logical sense in the way of like a storyline,
Mm-hmm.
but they do like evoke an emotion.
Hmm.
um and yeah, I feel like there is something interesting there as well, which I don't really actually think I accomplished with any of the music videos I made. Turns out I don't think I can actually think that way all the like
Huh.
I think I have to have a structure a little bit for me to follow. I can't like, hey, here's like a video made of like 50 seemingly unrelated clips, but evoke this emotion out of you. I don't think that's really my jam of being able to put that together, but
Hmm.
I yeah, there's lots of interesting films I've watched that I like really enjoyed and like definitely have like an interesting impact like that are a little bit inspiring. But
What's your either from, you know, the art house thing you mentioned or from just major industry, what's one film you saw recently that you really enjoyed?
oh, it's so weird now. I haven't been to the movie theater in
Oh, that's true.
2 months, so it would have to be something I watched at home. Um, Hang on, real quick. I've been watching a lot of movies lately, so they're all kind of blending together. I watched this really long movie the other night called Stalker, which is this Russian movie, and the premise of it is like really interesting, and it is like incredibly slow. Like it's
Huh.
like 3 hours long, and mostly like 5 minute takes of dialogue scenes. Um, and sometimes it's more like poetry, but like basically the idea is it's like this like kind of post, I don't know what you would call it, this weird future, and it's like it's a Russian film and was made in the 70s, and like the whole beginning part of the film is in sepia, and
Hmm.
basically they live in this world where there was like some asteroid or something, some weird explosion happened, and there's this area called the zone that you're like not supposed to go to, and like if you go there like hardly anybody ever comes back from there, and
Hmm.
like in the zone there's this room that has like, if you go in there you're like your greatest desires will like come true, and basically a stalker is a person that will like knows the zone well enough because it's like a dangerous place, and he'll take you there, and so it's like him taking these two guys there, and like it's just like kind of weird and creepy them going through the zone because basically there's nothing there. It's just like empty wasteland, like Russian wasteland with like all these like broken things and stuff.
Hmm.
And like it's very suspenseful because you always kind of feel like something's gonna happen, but like it's like an invisible weird, I don't know, like suspense to it.
Hmm.
Um, but then I don't know, it's weird. Like I liked that movie and then I didn't like it at the same time, parts of it. Because like towards the end I was like losing my patience a little bit. Um, but it stuck with me, and I'm like thinking about like things in it still, like, what was this idea? Or like what, like, I don't know. I liked
Is
it.
it I looked it up. It said it's got, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I guess it's got
Oh,
that
does
going
it?
for it.
Yeah.
But huh, that's interesting. See, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I'm learning all these interesting things that I want to look
Yeah.
up later.
I mean, basically, if you want to go down a rabbit hole of watching old movies, get the Criterion channel. It's
Okay.
like $11 a month, and like some of the movies are like modern, but basically they like take movies that are like really unique, and they'll make Blu-ray like special editions of them with like all of like the making of and special features you could imagine.
Hmm.
Uh, like they'll really do a ton of work, and they'll like make special artwork like for the case of the film, and like it's really cool. Like they've done it for like Christopher Nolan's first film, Following. I have a
Oh, okay.
Criterion edition of it, and like he has a whole director's commentary and like all these like really cool behind the scenes stuff. Like if there's a movie you really like and they have Criterion of it, like it's pretty cool to like dig into just everything that
Hmm.
it's like DVD special features on crack.
Gotcha. I haven't seen. every one of Nolan's movies yet. I haven't seen that one. I think there's another one. It's like Memento or
Insomnia.
something.
Oh, you haven't seen Memento. You should see Memento.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Insomnia was a little. I don't know if you've
His
seen that one.
really early ones I haven't seen.
Yeah, Memento is definitely interesting.
Hmm. I think I've seen everything from uh Batman Begins. Was that 2006? Do I have that wrong?
Like that. Everything from that on.
I think so.
Yeah,
So it's like first 3 or 4 films I haven't seen,
yeah.
but
Those are definitely the ones I've watched the least.
okay. What's the road ahead look like for you? What do you have any plans for what you want to do with your degree and your career and your passions and things like that?
I would. I mean, I'm probably going to continue working for this company for a while. I don't necessarily like that's not where I find any of my creative fulfillment, but I do like, being able to keep my skills kind of sharp, editing
Hmm.
like every day and shooting things pretty often. And it's actually interesting for directing because I have to direct people sometimes, and you're just working with people who maybe have zero experience in front of the camera. So you have to sort of learn to how to coach them to be confident on camera and to be natural. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
and so I'm gonna probably keep working there for a while, and then but I really want to make some more films, and I haven't quite figured out how, like, what exactly that looks like yet. I think it would start with me writing some more scripts. I've been trying to like come up with some ideas, and I feel like there's almost a weird pressure in my head of like, wow, it's been so long since I've written anything, and I have to write something good. And I also have like a hard time writing short short films. Like if you want to make something less than 3 minutes, it
Hmm.
kind of has to be like one idea, like one little idea that is a 3-minute film, and that's hard for me because I like want to think of like maybe something that's a little more complex or like a world or you know. Um, so I think I my goal for myself this year is to at least write one feature film script. Um, I'd love to write two because I think there's a big advantage in having two different projects going at the same time because it's very easy to get invested in one thing and have maybe some ego attached to it of like, if you get feedback on it that you don't
Hmm.
like, it's very
Hmm.
like easy to take it too personally maybe, or like be like, oh well, they don't think this is like, you can be way more objective with it when you have a second project, when you're like, oh well, I'm not feeling excited about that one, or like, oh yeah, I guess that's not very good, that's fine, maybe this other thing is good, like there is a weird thing with that where I think it actually makes sense, and I haven't done that before, but that's some
Huh.
advice I heard recently that I think makes a lot of sense. Um, and I think I want to make a short film this year, even if it's very, very little. I think that would be a nice baby step. I've thought about potentially doing some stuff on YouTube, but I don't really want to go down like the rabbit hole of like, or like down the path of maybe making videos like every week. I kind of
Yeah.
want to, I want to be more of the person who's like actually making films, and then, you know, maybe I can show some really cool behind the scenes or like talk about how I made that thing, but I don't really want to turn into the person who doesn't actually make films and who just talks about gear all the time and like, here's how to get the cinematic shot. Like
Yeah.
I feel like the word cinematic is getting thrown around like all the time on YouTube and not actually being applied to like films. It's just like cinematic videos, and
Yeah.
I just don't want to like go down that path. I would rather be like, if this is like sports, I would rather be playing the game than be like just the coach who's doesn't play anymore but tells you how to do
I
it.
got you. I got you. That's awesome. Have you started work on either of those scripts that you mentioned, or?
I mean, I just have like ideas, little ideas, and I'm having issues like going to the next step of like, oh, am I excited enough about this idea? And
Mm,
it's
I see.
I think the other hard part of writing sometimes when you're also going to be the director is that you want to actually be able to make the thing that you're writing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, do I write this script that would be $1 million script to make, which that sounds like a really big number, but that's actually a very, very small
Yeah, it's
number.
still small for film.
That
Yeah.
is a very low budget film. Um, or do I want to like write the script that I can like scrap together with just like friends, maybe?
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm still trying to figure that out. I think maybe I'm gonna try to do one of each. maybe maybe that's a good balance of like just like being able to go create like let my imagination run a little bit more wild and then trying to make something that I maybe can realistically create. Um yeah, I guess those are my big things right now. I'm not like concretely working on anything, but
Yeah.
it's what I'm working towards, I guess. I do want to try to have a concept or an idea like that I am pretty excited about before I want to start going on it, but at the same time I probably need to set a deadline if I don't start something by some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I mean, if you ever want some writing help, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
It's, which is weird though, because if you're going to be directing it, then I don't have that same
Well,
influence.
it's fine. I do think you have to separate the things a little bit.
Yeah.
Like don't worry so much about how it's going to be shot all the time.
Yeah. You ever
Figure it
want
out.
advice or some help though? I got you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Send
my
you a rough draft. I'll send
me
you like the second draft. I don't think you should really send out your first draft ever.
it's just too rough for other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Like
Makes
just
sense.
don't care about your first draft at all. Like make the second draft at least like something that is
Mhm.
cohesive.
Yeah, me and my what I've got a couple months of YouTube and 20 years of being wanting to write ish kind of and doing it sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose probably not even 20 years. I can't count, ages 1 through 3 or whatever. But anyway, um, if you could go back and do anything different with how you've pursued filmmaking over your lifetime or just projects you've done, what would you do different and why?
It's always hard to say like that I would go back and do this thing differently because my life wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
totally understand that.
but I think I would do college differently. Um, I don't think most people should go to film school unless they like I don't know. Basically the reasons to go to film school in my mind is to use equipment, like to be able to like have the equipment to make stuff, which is awesome, and to meet like other filmmakers, like to kind of build this like contacts and like basically like finding people you can make stuff with.
Mhm.
Um, and then like actually making things and learning and like making mistakes that way. But you don't necessarily need to go to film school to do all that stuff. um, like it was a little bit less possible, I think, like right when I was starting college because we didn't have like DSLRs and mirrorless cameras that did video like we do right now. That started happening like right towards the end of my college career where it was like, oh, like for less than $1,000 I could actually own my own camera that I could like shoot a little film on and it would like actually look pretty good. like most of the equipment was still, like in the thousands of dollars, and it actually probably was like had less good results than the cameras that would come out like 3 years later. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know if I would do it again. At the same time, I don't know if I would have had the motivation to like to continue to pursue it if I didn't go to school. So in some ways I like maybe needed it, but I think as far as like what I learned, I everything I learned, I don't know. I feel like I did like 80% to 90% of like what I really learned about film. I learned my senior year doing my senior project.
Hmm.
Like actually doing that work. Like the rest of it was all just kind of like theory and like theoretical, of like like you do little class projects and you like learn about film history and stuff, but basically you're it's mostly watching movies and like like coming up with like what is this, like talking about maybe like what this film means, but like YouTube, y- like there's just as good of stuff, if not better stuff, that you
Yeah.
can watch on YouTube about all that now, and you can go watch any movie in the world you wanted on Amazon Prime, or go subscribe to the Criterion channel and like go learn about film history for $11 a month. Like I think that's the main thing I would do differently. And also, I think another big thing with going to college is if you're like wanting to get maybe a job in video after you're done with school, you're like building contacts in your region. Like, maybe some company has worked with your professor and like really respects like recommendations taken
Mm,
by
gotcha.
the professor. And in my case, like, well, I moved away from there and never came back after I graduated from Arkansas. So like all the contacts I made, like all the other filmmakers I made, like became friends with,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're still my friends, but like I'm never gonna like end up doing another film project with them probably, and I'm not gonna get a job in Arkansas. So
Huh.
didn't really like think about those things. I kind of did school because it was the thing you did after high school, like
Yeah.
I think if I could go back, maybe I would take some time off and like not feel pressure to like just move right into to college.
Well, that's good advice for me because I'm glad I did, my freshman year, like how I've done it. I think it's been good, but I'm
Yeah.
still a little bit, like, do I want to pursue this for like 3 more years or whatever? And you
Yeah.
know, fortunately for just going to public university with scholarships and things like that, like it's fairly cheap university where it's not a lot of money out of pocket versus going to a private school where
Yeah.
you got to pay for tons of stuff
Yeah.
like
I mean, like going to private school to do your gen eds, which is what I did my freshman year, is kind of dumb.
yeah, yeah,
It's a lot of money to just take general ed classes, especially if you're like I was living at home, like
yeah,
I wasn't even getting like the college dorm experience.
yeah.
But yeah.
Final topic. I've got one other thing after this I'm gonna do,
Yep.
but what what advice would you give to those who are interested in pursuing YouTube or filmmaking or even like TV, I guess. Just that whole process of creating videos.
I would say you got to just get started. Um, quantity. Okay. Here's my saying.
Okay.
Quantity creates quality.
Ooh. Oh, okay. We got to write that one down.
Yeah. By like making enough things, you will get better. And that's kind of the only way you will get better. You can't like theorize your way into making better films. Like you have
Mm,
to actually go out and have the experiences and like learn what worked and like what didn't work, and like, oh, why like this scene was way too dark, or like this transition didn't work, or like that dialogue was like really bad. And like mistakes can be more helpful than like getting something right the first time sometimes, because maybe you did like something amazing the first time, but like you don't actually know what it was that you did that was really good or really right. And like you only learn that like by making that mistake of like, oh yeah, I should not do that. I should not do that again. I won't do that again.
Huh. No, that makes a lot of sense. I like that quantity creates quality because, like, I don't know where I'm going with like the stuff I'm doing right now, but
Yeah.
it's been super helpful just to be like, just start making it, and like, it's okay if your initial stuff kind of sucks
Yeah.
because you learn from that. Like,
Yeah. And I would say, okay, I guess I have a couple other points I wrote down here. Um, if you want to make your films like better, I would like focus on sound, because um I think like sound is a thing that is like really undervalued, and
mm,
like beginning filmmakers and amateur filmmakers. Like if like I showed you like this movie clip and it was kind of like dark and grainy, but like it sounded like perfect, that would
mhm.
be like way more watchable than this thing that's like looks amazing but looks like sounds like it was recorded during like a tornado. Like all the audio is like blown out, and
Yeah,
like the wind is just like so heavy. Like really good like audio editing and like just audio that's captured well can go such a long ways. Or like even if you have to like kind of dub it over or
yeah.
something, like like that's I think that's the way to go when you start out. Like that will make your film feel like way more professional if that the audio just like doesn't distract you.
So what you're saying is, I made the right move in buying a microphone before I bought a camera.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
You could make
That,
you could make a little thing with pictures and sound, maybe. It could be
yeah, there you
professional.
go. I've got
Um,
I've got a microphone, and I'm still rocking the iPhone SE.
that's a no, it's a good camera.
it is a good camera, but
I
I
have the
gotta
iPhone 7 Plus, I think.
okay. I At some point I kind of just want to upgrade my phone anyway because I'm running out of storage space on it. So
Yeah. No, I feel like this is gonna be the year for me to finally go to, like, the 11 or whatever, because I was
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I don't need a new phone," but now it's been, like, 3 to 4 years, so I feel like, "Okay, I
yeah,
think I've
yeah,
waited
same,
long
same.
enough." Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I'll invest my money in this summer, if, depending on how jobs and work
Yeah.
goes this summer. But like, I don't know. Even having a phone camera, like nowadays, you can't maybe do everything you could with like a super good camera, but it's
Yeah.
still pretty decent.
No, I mean, like, if you know the right settings to use, you could, like, create really, like, some good stuff with your iPhone. I mean, there are a couple of films that have been shot just on iPhone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's this movie by Steven Soderbergh that came out a year or two ago. It's the guy who directed like Ocean's 11.
Okay.
Uh, he directed this film called Unsane, um, about this like woman who's like put into this like mental institution, like even though she's not crazy, um, and they shot that all on an iPhone.
Hmm.
Um, and it looks pretty. I mean, you can kind of tell like of like this doesn't quite seem right, but it like actually I think works pretty well for the film because it's kind of like gritty and dark anyway. So like that sort of slightly lower res feel like works
Hmm.
for it. But yeah, like the most important, like if you get the Filmic Pro app, you can like
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the thing I was gonna actually ask you about. I forgot what it was
yeah,
called.
yeah, Filmic Pro, like because this is gonna turn into a whole cinematography like lesson if I talk for too long. But basically, like the exposure on a camera is controlled by like three things. There's ISO, shutter speed, and aperture. And
Okay.
like shutter speed is like the big thing that makes iPhone footage look weird. Like the motion looks weird of like where there isn't any motion blur. And
Yeah,
like
yeah,
movies are shot usually at like 48 frames a second because there's a whole thing, but there's like shutter angle and like basically movies the frame rate of movies is 24 frames a second. And so
yes.
usually you want to shoot at twice that for your shutter speed, so 48, to get like natural looking motion blur. And the problem with like iPhones is that like when it's super bright outside, like you can't really like I don't think you can change the aperture on iPhones.
Hmm.
So you're like taking away this one thing that allows you to bring the brightness down. And so like basically the only way to like compensate for that is to crank the shutter speed way up. And then when you do that, it looks like really kind of jittery,
Hmm.
and there's no motion blur. Um, but there's ways to overcome that if you like. You'd have to buy some attachments. Basically, there's like things called ND filters, and they're like sunglasses for your camera, basically.
Huh.
And it just like makes everything darker so that you can shoot um, at lower shutter speeds and it looks correct.
Hmm. I haven't done a ton of research into that. I've seen a few interesting things in regards to that. I know. Okay, so on the Filmic Pro, like, isn't it? It allows you can like separate like where the exposure is versus like where the brightness is, and
Yeah, yep.
that.
And then it lets you control shutter speed and ISO and all those things.
Gotcha. I think there were a couple of films that I'm trying to remember that were supposed to be unique because of like their frame rate or something. Like
Oh, yes.
there
There
was
was
something with The Hobbit I thought was supposed to be. I don't know if
yes.
that ever went anywhere, but like what?
I don't know if they ever showed it that way. And then there was there's that Will Smith movie Gemini Man. That was
Oh yeah,
it was 120 frames a second. And it's like it's an interesting like effect. Like having like I think a lot of video games are 60 frames a second.
yep,
And
most are.
it kind of works to make things maybe more like realistic looking,
Yeah,
but for film I don't know, there's kind of I think part of the magic is like the motion blur. And I'm not like necessarily against like all like this most like changing the frames per second for everything, but I do think 24 frames is always going to be like the main thing. Like
hmm,
there's something about 60 frames where I remember looking at footage of The Hobbit because I feel like they did show some 60 frames footage at some
yeah,
point, and it was like the fake like makeup and things that are fake look so much more fake
huh?
when they're like in 60 where everything is just so crisp and clear in every frame. Like there's just like something really weird about it. I like lots of like lots of cameras like that's how you shoot slow motion is shooting at high frame rates.
Yeah,
So like to shoot like basic slow motion, you usually shoot at 60 frames a second and then you turn it into 24 frames a second so that it becomes 2.5 times slower.
yep.
Um, but if you ever just go back and watch 60 frames per second footage you shot on a camera, it's just like so weird. It's
Well,
a
yeah, you could.
weird
So
feeling.
when you look at like on your iPhone or whatever, like
Yeah,
before you start recording, it's a super high frame rate. Like,
yeah,
and so like you can just look around with it, and it's like, well, that's really weird. But
yeah.
then you
Just
get
doesn't
like the
look
slow motion effect.
right.
Yeah. Hmm. I think there's also something with animation in the Spider-Man film, the
Oh yeah,
Spider-Verse, which
they'll go like lower frame rates than normal.
yeah, I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies of all
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah, they like I think don't they like mix animation in there of like some characters are 24 frames and some are
yeah,
like animated
that was
at lower.
that
Yeah.
was something for, once again, quarter group, but like they talked about like the the older Spider-Man is he's more experienced, so like his motions are more fluid, whereas
Yeah.
Miles is younger and
Yeah.
inexperienced, so he has a lower frame rate. So
Yeah. It's such a cool idea to
yeah.
show it that way.
I have this one quick thing. Okay.
Okay.
We've been going for forever, but it's fine. We're gonna play a game, but not really. It's not really a game. It's more like a trivia thing. I'm
Okay.
curious. Is you've proven that you are an experienced um, filmmaker. You know a lot of things, right? Now, but do you know
Oh
this?
no. Oh no.
Do you know we're gonna do the top 10 highest grossing films of all time? You don't have to name them in order, right? But this is adjusted for inflation. Okay.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
Yep,
Just
adjusted for inflation. What are the top 10 highest grossing films of all time? I'm going to see if you get these
oh
right.
no. I feel like I don't know what the adjusted for inflation ones because isn't all right. Like, tell me this: is there a lot more like older movies on this list?
Okay, so
Like,
older
like
movies that
before?
you probably wouldn't expect. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. Set a date.
like I'm talking before like 1980.
Okay, so before 1980, based on my quick math, which could be wrong, I'm going to say there are, I think half of them are before
Okay,
1980.
I'm probably not gonna get too many of those, but we'll see. Okay, isn't off the bat? Isn't Gone with the Wind one of them?
Gone with the Wind is number 1.
Number one. Okay, yes, I got that one at least.
You're on a good
Um,
you're on a roll.
okay. I know this was a top grossing movie. I don't know with inflation, but Titanic,
Titanic is number 3.
number three. Okay. Um, I believe wasn't Avengers Endgame
Endgame is number 5.
number five. Um, oh boy, this is where I start to get in trouble here. I think one of the Star Wars movies has got to be on here.
You'd be right. Actually, I'm going to give you a hint. There's 2 of them on there.
Two of them. Um, well, which two? Is Phantom Menace one of them?
So, Phantom Menace is not.
No.
Although I think if you were to look at the like not adjusted for inflation, it is like in the top
Okay.
20 if I remember right.
It's Force Awakens,
Force Awakens is number 10.
number 10. Okay. Um, is the original Star Wars
The original Star Wars is number 4.
number 4? Okay, so those are the two Star Wars.
Yep.
Okay.
You're doing good so far.
Um, so how many do I have here? Like five?
You have 5 of them. You're halfway there.
Oh boy. Hmm.
There's one There's one really obvious one that you should still know. The other ones I don't know for sure.
Like an obvious, as in like recent.
Obvious is in it's widely known for being a very
Okay.
financially successful movie.
Okay. Is Wizard of Oz on the list?
No.
No. Okay.
This is
Uh,
according to Wikipedia, by the way. So
okay.
as far I checked it out. They did have a source for it. It's not just some dude made it up. But
Yeah. No, there's like I know there's like a really obvious one that's like slipping my mind right now.
mhm.
I'm like trying to think through like directors in my head. I can't get the obvious one right now, but is is Return of the King on the list?
No. Once
No.
again, though, that is one that is I think in the top
Okay.
for sure the top 50. I don't know for sure.
What about The Matrix?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So let's see what else can I do to help you out here. There's the really obvious one you should know.
Yeah.
There's a Spielberg film that you should well, maybe not you should know, but it's there one of them is a Spielberg film. And then
Okay.
the other 3, I don't know if you'll get them.
Okay. I'm gonna look at the Spielberg one first because at least I know I'll be able to get it with
Yeah.
some wrong guesses probably.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Jaws.
No.
E.T.
Yes, it is
Okay.
E.T., which is actually kind of weird to think about because I think Jurassic Park made more money than E.T., but like not if you adjust for inflation. Uh,
Okay.
I could be
Well, I
wrong.
guess it kind of makes sense. I guess E.T. is a little more family friendly. Although Brooke, she hates E.T. She can't watch E.T.
So, okay, sidebar. The rest of the fam, they just watched ET like a couple days ago,
Yeah.
but I was working on some other stuff. I don't know if I've ever actually seen
Oh,
all of
really?
ET before. Like, at least not like old enough to remember it.
Oh, interesting. It's one of those movies that, like, I'm happy mom actually let me watch it as a kid. Because it had some, like, parts that were kinda scary, and they're, like, burned in my brain sort of, but, like, in a good way. Like, I remember, like, specific scenes, like, random it's weird, like, the random little things you remember as a kid. Like, there's
Huh.
just, like I remember there's, like, a scene where the mom, like I think it's the mom or maybe it's the boy, she turns on, like, the sink with hot water, and, like, the whole sink is just, like, filling with fog when they're, like, looking out the window or something. Like, it's like a random thing, like, why would you remember that? But I do.
Huh.
Uh,
That's weird.
okay,
Interesting.
so 6. I'm gonna this obvious one is driving me crazy. Like, Titanic was the big one that was in my
Yep.
head.
Yep. There's
Uh,
one other one though. Let's right alongside Titanic.
is The Godfather on the list?
Nope. Okay. So I really want you to get the
The
main
obvious
one. Yeah.
one? Okay,
Um, this film was noted especially for the VFX in it.
and it's not a Star Wars or The Matrix.
No, it's heavily dependent on VFX.
Alien?
Ooh, no,
Aliens?
no.
No.
It's a
Indiana
within
Jones?
within the past 15 years.
The past 15 years. I'm gonna listen back to this and just be like kicking myself.
It
Uh,
is. Let's see if I can find the edit. No, I don't know if I don't think I should say the director because you'll probably get it right away.
this isn't a Christopher Nolan film, is it?
No, no,
Okay.
it's a James Cameron film.
Oh, because I don't care about this film at all.
I
Avatar.
know. Yeah, it's
That
have you actually seen
makes
it before?
yes. I saw it in theaters and
Okay.
I never rewatched it.
I don't I kind of want to see it to know what like the whole fuss was with it, but
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like it appealed to me at all.
I mean it's like fine. It's not terrible. It's
Yeah.
just like nowhere near as good as yeah. It's like
That's
it's Pocahontas in space. Like the story doesn't have anything like original.
Okay, do you want to know what the other 3 were?
Let me take a couple more stabs just
Okay,
for
hang on.
fun.
I'm gonna you take a couple more stabs and I'll give you some more hints.
Ben-Hur.
No, you're getting the right track. Okay, so the 3 remaining films were in either the 50s or the 60s.
Oh, all three of them.
Yep.
Okay. Um, Ten Commandments.
Yes, that is number 8.
Okay.
So you still need number 6 and number 9.
I'm still on Charlton Heston. So Planet of the Apes.
Nope.
Okay. um, Sound of Music.
Yep, that's the 50 or is that the 50s one? No, that's the 60s one.
Okay. So I
So you got one more in the 60s.
have you seen this movie?
No.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, I've only seen like probably 3 or 4 films from the 60s. Which is
Boy.
not good on my part, but you know.
60s.
1965 to be specific. I don't know if that helps, but
5. I feel like there's another film that I associate like Gone with the Wind with. Like I think of it in the same way. I feel like it could be another movie like that.
you brought up a country earlier and this film is also set in that country.
Oh, set in Russia?
Yep.
What would be set in Russia? I don't know. What is it?
Okay, here's your last hint.
Okay,
The
yeah, yeah.
genre is it is a epic romantic drama.
Whoa. Is it like a Russian film or it's just set in Russia?
Um, I think it's just set in Russia, but let me double check to make sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know actually either. I can't answer the question of like was it in English? I think it's in English. I don't know.
I bet
It's
I haven't seen.
Dr. Zhivago.
Oh, hmm. I would not have gotten that one.
Have you
I don't
seen
even
that film before?
know. I don't even really know anything about that movie.
I don't
Like,
know anything about it other than the name.
I didn't. Wow, I didn't know that would be like a top.
Yeah, I don't know why. Uh, maybe I think these are like worldwide sales, so maybe. So who knows? Yeah, worldwide gross. So maybe it was popular in different
Wow, this is
countries.
crazy. I don't know why I've never even heard of this. Who's in it?
I've for sure heard the name before. I don't know anything else about it though.
I don't even know. Okay, I guess I've seen a couple. Oh, Alec Guinness is in it. Okay, huh? Obi-Wan. Yeah, I've never really even heard of this movie. That's crazy. It's crazy that a movie can be in the top 10 of all time and like never even really heard of it.
Well, that's what gross wise.
Yeah,
I feel like I was like, oh yeah, that movie. Although there's some weird ones if you look at like not adjusted for inflation, like the newest Lion King, like the remake is like made a ton of movie or money, and I was like, what?
yeah.
That seems kind of weird to me. Um,
It's because they like you can get the parents and the adults probably.
yeah, yeah, that makes
The
sense.
parents with the nostalgia and the kids with the new movie. Yeah. Hated that by the
You didn't
way.
like the new one? I didn't. I
I
didn't actually
hated
see it.
the new Lion King.
I kind
Oh,
of, I've kind of refused to watch
yeah.
pretty much
Just
all
don't
the
watch
remakes.
it. It's gonna make you upset.
Although so mom really really wanted me to watch the new Aladdin, um, but I don't want to. I don't know
Oh,
if it's
I
any
still
good.
haven't watched it either. I've heard some like mixed things that like that Will Smith is actually a pretty good genie, but
Huh.
like when I watched the trailer, the thing that stuck out to me is like the original movie seemed like it was more like Arab, I guess,
Yeah, for sure.
like people with beards and like it just seemed like it had like a more like gritty feel to it. And then like when I watched the trailer for this, everything seems so like clean and bright, like
Yeah,
Bollywood sort of.
yeah.
So it's like a different vibe to me.
Hmm. Well, that's one of the weird things where, like, if you were to make a remake of an old film, like, I feel
Yeah,
like it'd be one thing to just like totally just transform the animation style, but like keep everything else the same versus just like
yeah.
remaking it into something new, kind of.
I mean, I guess you're always in like a weird situation when you're remaking something. It's
Hmm.
better not to remake things.
That's what I would.
This is
Yeah,
the
I don't.
world we live in with Disney now.
Yeah. Although you can get some really interesting, not with films, but video game remakes can be really interesting. Just because that
Yeah,
technology has been so transformed in such a short
yeah.
amount of time.
No, it is a little sometimes disheartening to look at if you just look at top 10 movies lists of like
Mhm.
each year. The majority of the time is like going to be movies that are like existing properties already or they're remakes, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, they're like not necessarily like original scripts that aren't based off of anything. Um, which I mean, it's like of course I love like still Marvel movies and like movies based off books. Like there's so many great movies based off books, but
Yeah.
like it is kind of like disappointing to like hardly ever see like completely original scripts like not doing anything on the top tens.
I actually so I was gonna ask you this. I almost forgot, but I like going to uh I like going to Rotten Tomatoes, which is weird because I feel like a lot of times the critics can be like, who knows, but in
Yeah,
general, like I feel like IMDb is more of a how did audience respond to it versus Rotten Tomatoes is more of a how did critics respond to it.
yeah,
Um, and a lot of times, something that wasn't super financially successful had a lot of like critical praise for cool things that they did in it.
yeah.
Um, so I was there's what the film that just came out not too long ago. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to. I'm sure you have seen it, but I want to know is it any good? Is Parasite?
Yes, I think Parasite is a very good movie,
Okay.
and it it's like one of the movies that I was actually like very happy that won Best Picture in the last couple years.
Hmm.
Uh, like I don't get like too invested in the Oscars anymore, but I guess I
Yeah.
am a little bit on the night. I'm like, yeah, when something wins, but like I get excited because, but I, it's just like sometimes it's kind of just weird that we have like Oscars anyways because
Yeah.
it's like I think we should like praise films that are like great and celebrate them, but like it's weird how it gets kind of turned into an art competition.
Mhm.
Like how are you supposed
That
to
makes
like compare these movies that are completely different or like why do they have to compete? Why can't they exist on
Yeah,
their
yeah.
own? But
People have their own unique things,
yeah,
and
Parasite is really, really good.
okay,
Uh at least I think so.
okay. I, I literally, I tried to convince Christina to watch it with me for like
Yeah.
half an hour or something, just because but she was like super tired. It was like I can't handle
And it's one of
like a
those
drama plot or whatever.
yeah. It's a weird movie to like try to even fit exactly in one category.
That's what I heard too. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like it's got like lots of humor, but like sometimes like dark humor and then like there's some thriller elements to it, but then like a lot of like drama. Yeah, it's like it's really good though.
huh. Okay, I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen. It came out quite a while ago, but Knives Out. I haven't seen that yet,
Oh,
and
really? Yeah,
I hear it's
definitely
pretty good.
get that one.
So okay, I think. Oof,
Did
this
we do
this
it?
100%. This is the longest one I've done so far. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me. It's been a lot of fun. We
Yeah,
haven't talked in a while either, so it's just good to catch up
yeah.
and
Have a
um,
nice 3 hour conversation.
yeah, sure. Is there is there anything else you wanna say to the audience at large, I guess?
Um, I guess the only thing I had a couple of things written down real quick just for resources if anybody is interested in
For
learning
sure.
more about filmmaking, some good free resources. Um, DaVinci Resolve is a free program for coloring and editing. If you're using like a cheap camera, then you're not gonna be able to maybe do quite as much with the coloring side, but it's
Mhm.
a very like it's an awesome program and like I probably will switch to it myself at some point here. Um, to not have to pay for Premiere anymore.
Yeah.
um, and then I would say if you want to like just learn more about like filmmaking and but like more in maybe like an essay form of like just like breaking down concepts or like certain things about movies or like maybe just wanting to see more movies that like basically to watch an essay video and you're like, oh wow, now I want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
um, I would check out the YouTube channel Every Frame of Painting.
Okay.
Um, I think he has the best like essays on movies on YouTube. He actually doesn't make them anymore. He stopped a couple of years ago. But I think he has like a collection of like 30 to 40 videos that are really, really good. And
Okay.
I put those on every once in a while. Just I've rewatched a bunch of them a bunch of times. Um, if you want to learn about lighting, I would check out the YouTube channel Aperture. Aperture is like a brand that makes lights. So I mean they're like trying to sell their products, but they it's really good like info about lighting.
Hmm.
Um, like sometimes obviously you're not gonna be able to actually replicate it if you don't have lights, but you're still gonna learn the concepts and stuff. Um, and then if you want to learn more about writing, there's this podcast called Script Notes.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I have listened to them. They're pretty
yeah,
good.
that's if you want to hear from like two actual working script writers in Hollywood, that's a pretty good podcast for that.
Yeah, one of them did what is it? Chernobyl, and
Yeah.
somebody else worked on, I think, Aladdin, actually, if I remember
Yeah.
right.
Although I think maybe I don't know if that I think that's one of those things where maybe multiple people worked on it
Yeah,
and he was
for sure,
like,
for sure.
but I think more notably he did like Big Fish. I don't know
Okay,
if you've ever seen that. It's got Ewan McGregor in it, but that's a pretty good film. But yep,
gotcha.
those are my resources.
There you go. Um, do you want to give yourself any self promotion type stuff? Do you want people checking out your things, or?
Sure. I mean, you could if somehow someone out there wants to look at my portfolio site, it's baileymotion.com. But I think the biggest thing I would want to plug is probably just my YouTube channel. Um, I am Ghost Forest on YouTube. If you just look for Arcadia Bay, that film, I mean, you're gonna find me through that.
Mhm.
Uh, and hopefully, I will be like putting maybe some more content up there this year. I haven't exactly decided what I want to do, but it's kind of been cool to like still be getting some views and subscribers from Arcadia Bay, and um, I want a place to actually put these films, little short films I do. So
Yeah,
we'll
that'd be
see. Yeah, might be more coming there soon.
awesome. Guess we'll see. Thank you, everyone else, for listening. Peace out. That's the end of my
That's it.
recording. So I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.
Well, everyone, I hope you sincerely enjoyed that episode. I feel like I say this every week, but man, that was like one of my favorite conversations. It's just been so cool to be able to sit down and be intentional and have these long discussions with other people, and just to learn more and to grow. And so, personally, it's been super helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful and enjoyable for you as well. Quick side note, I did go and watch Parasite also, in addition to those Edgar Wright films I mentioned earlier. Um, Parasite is a really interesting film. I don't know if I would necessarily recommend it to other people, but there were definitely parts of it that I really enjoyed, and the storyline is very interesting in that film. So I've also since watched a few of those Every Frame a Painting videos that Josh recommended, and they are very helpful if you are interested in filmmaking. So I would also recommend those videos. And really, my older brother just has a lot of experience in this profession, so I would second any of his recommendations. He kind of knows what he's talking about. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you found any part of this episode particularly intriguing or helpful or whatnot, just let me know in the comments down below. I really do appreciate being able to hear your guys' opinions on just all these different topics. And of course, if you enjoyed the episode, please give it a like. I would appreciate that too. So that'll do it for this week. Please be excited for next week, where we will be talking a bit more about lifestyle. Growing up, I was a homeschooler growing up, so I got a few of my other fellow homeschoolers to chat with me just about what life is like in that kind of education setting. Please look forward to that, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.